Listen, welcome to another episode of Off the Record podcast. I'm in the fancy Spotify LA studio, and when I was writing down of the people I would love to speak to when I came to LA, you were at the top of my list. If you don't know who I'm sitting with, this is someone who is I would say, decorated filmmaker, someone who is a voice of the community, someone who is, I feel like there's just so many different ways I could describe you, but I just call you someone who's just a great person. You know, I love hearing you speak, whether I agree or not. And even when I wanted to sit down with you, I'm like, this is gonna be good because I want to get to some common ground with you. Right. And I value your voice a lot. So my guest today is Tariq Nasheed.
My pleasure to be here.
No, I appreciate you.
No doubt.
And also the timing of this is great too, because I just released an episode what some people might call controversial, and I really wish you were there for that one.
Is that the one with Candace Owens?
Yes.
I saw a clip of it.
I wanted you there. I wanted you there because
I saw that.
There's another clip.
Okay.
And by the way, like, maybe we even skipped it because I want you to kind of react to some of like even some of her ideology. And the reason why I wanted you there is that I'm someone who has a platform where I don't believe necessarily in silencing people, but I believe in balance. Right. So it's not, I'm not going to be the person, but I'm just going to talk to the people who agree with me. Like, I like people challenging me, and I like people schooling me, putting me on game. Like, that's the point. And, of course, we started originally as a music podcast, but through music, a lot of times, as you normally say, like, you got to give game to people. So that's why I felt it was important to not only have you on, but I'm trying to be the person who could, give the platform and, try to give a rebuttal if, someone might feel different. So I wish you were there because she's a lot. She's gonna hold with her shit. But one thing I've listened to you, you're sharp with your shit. Sharp with your shit. Like, you know what I mean? I've seen a lot of times when whether some shit happens and I see you on Twitter, but I love to, like, you have the live streams. I'm like, and you break it out. I'm like, that's an interesting way to think about it.
And I heard a little clip and Candace took a little shot at me. She said I was a despicable person or something like that. And the narrative that I heard was basically how Black immigrants come over and do so much better than foundational Black Americans.
And that's such a great conversation. I wanted to, another reason. So I am a Black, I don't know. Well, I was born in Jamaica. I came here.
You're an immigrant.
Yeah. And by the way, I've gotten also some people who, I said this one time, I said, I don't know why I think this. And this is why you're here to, help me understand too. Like, for whatever reason, I kind of feel like, there was a little bit more of a battery in my back to like work harder. And I didn't say that or think that to like be demeaning, but maybe it is. So, that's why I have you here, and I'm just willing to have that conversation. So, first and foremost, with the Candace Owens thing, I just want you to just respond to anything you've seen or
so with the Candace Owens, she's always spewed this narrative that she's Caribbean. She's always talking about bragging about being from, I think, St. Thomas, something like that. And I've been to St. Thomas, and it's just like being in the 1800s. It's completely backwards, and no disrespect to the people of St. Thomas, but it's really not up to date, and they don't really have it popping there, unfortunately. But Candace Owens does a bunch of talking points. So a lot of stuff she says is not even in good faith. So a lot of times we don't have to go back and forth with Candace Owens because she's so easily debunked. She's just spewing talking points passed down by right-wing white supremacist think tanks. They give her these anti-Black talking points so that she can be a cover for the white supremacists to hide behind. So instead of a white supremacist saying the nonsense she says, they have her do it and just co-sign her. So that's a cottage industry.
How does she get there?
There's a cottage industry for that. Okay, let's be very clear. The white supremacists, they've always created these little industries where they will pay Black people to spew vitriol against other Black people. They've been doing that since slavery. And they get people, usually they get a lot of people from immigrant backgrounds because they understand that a lot of immigrants don't see themselves as a foundational Black American or that they have a lineage or camaraderie with us. So it's easier for them to get an immigrant to do that.
Could you explain? So the term, and I think you coined this term. I hope you like trademarked the foundational Black American. Explain what it means, and also explain the psychology and like maybe the mindset of that individual, because at the end of the day, still we are like, we do share a skin complexion, but sometimes if there's different mentalities or different perspectives or ideologies. And I think that's where you have kind of pointed out, like, well, we have to be very, very careful in identifying what our goals are, and if there's others that don't really, coincide with that. And you came up with this term, so I want to give you the floor. Like,
right, foundational Black American, that is a Black person who's a non-immigrant, basically, a person who descended from slaves in America. The first time I heard that type of ideology was from one of my mentors, Dr. Claude Anderson.
Okay,
he would often use the term Native Black American.
Yeah.
Then there was a brother named Norris Sheldon who had coined the term descendants of American slaves. So we kind of meshed those terms together, and we ended up using the term foundational Black American, meaning the people who built this country from scratch. That's us. We descended from slaves. We're non-immigrants, and we have a very specific lineage to this country. There's no disrespect to anybody, but it's just us acknowledging our lineage, because we had to acknowledge this lineage, because when we talk about reparations, who's going to get the reparations? It has to go to foundational Black Americans, the people who built the country.
That's interesting. You said two things that's very important there. And by the way, I've heard you say, and by the way, I don't think, again, I'm an immigrant, and I don't think even necessarily when you say this is like an attack on me. I think you're being specific to say, hey, listen, which I think a lot of things are non-specific, where they'll say minorities and then they lump in other people, which kind of diverts from sometimes an intended
and that's
purpose.
been the problem, because for so long, we've let people throw a label on us, and we just include everybody in the label. When they say Negro, okay, all Negroes. We're Pan-African. We want to help everybody. When Marcus Garvey came over, we made Marcus Garvey a thing over here. We gave Marcus Garvey international clout. When other people come over, we embrace them. In fact, when immigrant groups came over here, it was us fighting for immigrant groups. Even in the early 1900s, around 1915, it was Black people fighting for immigrants to come over here from the Caribbean, because the white supremacists had all types of rules and statutes that they didn't want Black people coming over here. Speaking of Marcus Garvey, it was Booker T. Washington to help get Marcus Garvey to come over here.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of folks don't know that. In the 1960s, it was foundational Black Americans using the momentum from the civil rights movement, fighting to get immigrants over here from Africa and the Caribbean, because we wanted them to come over to be reinforcements for us. You see,
that's such a great point. And by the way, like, even at the point of like to the point of reparations, right?
Yes,
I would say, maybe you do have a point, because me being an immigrant, I don't really have I don't feel like I have a stake in that reparations argument.
Right.
I don't feel entitled to reparations. Now, if it was something that dealt with slavery in Jamaica and what the Queen imposed, because there's still a presence there.
Right, and they have CARICOM in the Caribbean. In Jamaica, they include all of the Caribbean nations. We're not included, and we're cool with that. But what's interesting, one of the heads of CARICOM, even though they don't include us in the reparations claim there, she said they should get reparations from the U.S. when we get our reparations, because the U.S. is a part of the Caribbean, and the Americas are all the same. So it's a very weird dynamic, this weird sense of entitlement, where people feel like they should get what we get, but we can't get what they get. And that's been kind of a problem with a lot of these diaspora conversations. There's this one-sided Pan-Africanism where everybody kind of gets stuff from us. We have to fight for everybody, but when we try to be a part of the other people's culture, we're not let in. We can't get citizenship, dual citizenship, in large numbers in the Caribbean or Africa. They don't let us in CARICOM. They don't let us in the African Union. So we're like, why are we doing this one-sided relationship where we're doing all the heavy lifting and nobody else is reaching out trying to create this Pan-African vibe? So we're looking at our lineage now like, hey, let's just build our own thing up right now before we suffer.
Yeah, no, and I completely understand. I think some may misinterpret that, and I've spoke to other people who, maybe share the same background as me, and I don't, I don't find it like offensive when you, it's kind of like, let's be specific of the people who are really affected by certain things in the Black community.
Right.
I don't find it offensive, but some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do feel like you're kind of sectioning off, or that might be, fighting against the overall narrative. And what do you say to those people? Because they might be like,
what's the overall narrative?
Well, they might be like, well, we're all in this together,
Well, people are all in this together as long as they're getting what we're getting. If we're doing something positive as foundational Black Americans, everybody wants credit for it, and we give everybody credit for it. Like, yeah, if you want to get credit for our music, that's fine. That's why we see a lot of people talking about Jamaicans created hip hop, which is not true.
No, we did.
How so? Oh, let's get into this. How you create hip hop?
Well, okay.
Come on, let's get into this. Let's get into this. How you create hip hop, man?
Well, I didn't create hip hop.
No, how did Jamaicans create hip hop?
But I'm gonna. I heard it was because of Jamaicans. I'm just here telling you the narrative I've heard.
We're gonna clear that up.
The narrative. Because the Jamaicans that inspired Kool Herc to go to the Bronx, do whatever. That's what I've heard. And by the way, for my people from the islands, I'm trying to be our representative, and I'm here to be a buffer. You know what I mean? I'm here to be a buffer.
We're gonna clear these lies up.
No, hold up. I'm gonna get somebody in the next room to Google the joint. So you're trying to don't take it from us, Jamaicans. Come on,
y'all didn't create hip hop. I'm sorry, brother. There were rap records in the 1960s. Pig Meat Markham had a couple of records.
What was the first hip hop record?
Well, the first technical hip hop record. It's a cross between King Tim III and Rapper's Delight. The first technical hip hop record doing what they were doing at the parties in the Bronx. A record, but rap records existed going back to the 1920s, where people were rapping on beat. Foundational Black Americans, we've been doing that. Gospel troops rapping over the beat. Even the word rap, that's something that Foundational Black Americans were doing in the 60s. The word, the term, even hip hop, that was kind of a term that we were.
How did the narrative get mixed up then?
It got mixed up because of writers talking about Kool Herc. Kool Herc's parties got popular. And because Kool Herc's parties got popular, they tried to attribute, well, he created hip hop, which he didn't. He just got a lot of stuff that people were already doing and kind of put it together in one place. And what made Herc's parties popular, because Herc wasn't a mixer or a scratcher or nothing like that. He played break beats, which other DJs played break beats too. And there were other DJs before Herc, like Disco King Mario, who's Foundational Black American. And again, they were using funk breaks by James Brown. Modern graffiti came out of Philadelphia by a dude named Cornbread early back in the 60s. So all the elements of hip hop was there. The thing about Herc would do something that a lot of DJs didn't do. What he would do was soak the records so you wouldn't see what the records were. So people heard these funky records and these breaks and they wanted to hear him again. And in order to hear him again, you had to go to Herc's parties because he didn't let nobody know what the records were. That gave Herc an edge. That's pretty much it. But all the hip hop elements were already there.
I feel like but do you at least admit that there's some commonality or synergy between, like, even some of the culture that existed in the Caribbean, that I don't want to say necessarily inspired, but crossed over, whether it was from an exchange of immigrants or anything like that?
No, because Kool Herc couldn't play Caribbean music at his jams. He's admitted that. He said, I tried to play reggae music, the crowds didn't like it. It was nothing about Caribbean music that influenced hip hop here. Absolutely nothing. And that's been a myth that's been perpetuated for years. And nobody wants to clear it up. We have to clear that stuff up. And we ain't trying to take anything away, but we won't let people take away from us as Foundational Black Americans. Hip hop is a 100% Foundational Black American creation because hip hop was born out of the funk movement that was around at the same time. Even b-boying comes from the funk music. You can't b-boy from Jamaican music. The rhythms of funk music, you have to start the beat on the one. And when people pop lock, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's funk all the way. Everything about it comes from Foundational Black American funk. And then that turned into FBA hip hop.
Damn, this nigga's on his shit, man. Hey, okay. Well, so let me reiterate a statement that I've said, and I said it with Candace Owens, and I feel like you're the perfect person to react to this and tell me if I've gone wrong in saying this.
All right.
And I felt like I've heard some of the narrative that you've said about this. I've just said, and I definitely didn't mean any disrespect, but I said, when I came to this country, right, which, I'm still very happy that I came to this country, right, but I'm from Jamaica. But when I came here, one of the things that I felt helped me propel is that, I came with zero expectations, and I was just kind of like, let me just put the work in and let's do it. A lot of friends that I had that were, you might consider like, Foundational Black Americans, sometimes I saw what would get in their way is, sometimes it's like the mentality of, being oppressed or these other things that were just kind of pretty much indoctrination. And I looked at it and I said, maybe just because I didn't come because I came from a different place, even though Jamaica went through its history of having, being oppressed as well. But just coming over here, because I feel like sometimes excuses have held back Black Americans. And
it has helped Black Americans?
No, held back
Black Americans.
Right.
Okay.
And I felt like
held back how?
I would say the difference between me and someone who's a foundational Black American who would try to do what I'm doing, or say we're both trying to just be a doctor, is that I just felt like I just had to work the hardest I can. I just couldn't I couldn't have any excuses. And despite obstacles, like whether I ran into racism, whether I ran into like other things that just came with being black, which is absolutely a fact.
Okay.
I just had to overcome.
See, that goes into a narrative, and I heard Candace say this, that which is not true, that Caribbeans and Africans come over here and do better than foundational Black Americans.
That's true.
That's not true. That's not true. What do you do? What or have you done that foundational Black Americans have not done?
Well, I wouldn't consider it like in particular to like my career, right? Because obviously there's a lot of people who are
anything.
Okay, no, well,
anything.
I'll talk about
what has a Caribbean or an African done here in America that we hadn't done 100 years ago?
I'll talk about school.
Okay,
right?
Let's go.
When I get to high school or I get to college, when you look around and you see the Black people who end up being engineers, a lot of them are like Nigerian Americans, you know what I mean? Like they're immigrants. And I take away from that, their parents are instilling something in them, like, just like it's like we know, like Indian parents are saying, listen, you're not gonna go for no fucking arts. You're going for literally math or science. That's the thing. Come on, you gotta admit that.
Sir, foundational Black Americans, we built schools like Tuskegee. We built HBCUs and other independent schools 100 years ago, man. We've done the education thing. We've mastered that. We showed the world how to do the education thing, man. We got Booker T.
We're not taking away from pioneers.
Yeah.
We're not saying you're a pioneer. No. Whoa, we're not saying that FBAs are not pioneers.
Y'all just catching up on stuff that we've been doing, man. If you look at the movie Hidden Figures, those sisters was working with NASA. We've been doing that.
I'm looking at the people who are excelling now, though.
Yeah, but it's still a lot of foundational Black Americans are business owners. Black Americans who are foundational are doing their thing now. What happens is a few Caribbeans come over here and get jobs and then want to pop your collar because you got a job.
You don't think it's at a greater rate, though?
No, it's not at a greater rate. You know what? It's not at a greater rate because what you do is you cherry pick the engineers and the doctors, but you dump all of the criminals, rapists, and gangsters on us and just make them Black. Y'all never count them. That's the problem. You don't count the shower posse and all of these niggas who come over here. Yeah, I'm going there. Y'all don't count them.
No.
Take them niggas
That's
over here
the minority.
With you. Take them over. No, man, take the gangsters and the hoodlums with you. Y'all dump them on us. Y'all never count them.
You think that? So you all right? Okay. I get what you're saying. So you're saying that
look at the Tekashi situation. All those dudes around Tekashi were non-FBA. Those dudes were Trinidadian, a whole bunch of those weren't foundational Black Americans around Tekashi. That's a perfect example. A lot of these dudes doing a lot of riffraff stuff. You don't count them as immigrants, even though there are.
Okay, that's a decent point. But however, I don't think that's the majority. I don't think that's the majority.
I think it's a lot. I think it's more them than engineers. You just don't count them.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially in New York on the East Coast.
Okay, perfect. And by the way, this is why I'm a real fan of yours.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, no, I'm a fan of yours because I even like the people if I disagree sometimes.
Right,
I like people who are great orators, people who have great points, and this is exactly what I wanted to do here. So, so I'm so happy you came here. But okay, let me ask you a question.
Yes,
this is a fundamental question.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it, and I remember coming here, and I'll give you a story.
Mm-hmm.
I had a culture shock when I first came here.
Mm-hmm.
I came here, it's like middle school, right? And the way how I feel like home training is different.
Home training.
Yes.
Okay.
In like where I came from compared to when I came here.
Oh, I gotta hear this.
Okay.
I gotta hear this.
I go to Hackensack Middle School. And I remember, by the way, this is the year when they knocked down the towers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the class, and there's a teacher, it's a white little fat teacher. She's trying to teach us math. And when we're in school, number one, I'm not saying I agree with it, but like back we're in Jamaica, you get your ass beat. Like if you're not paying attention, if you're dozing off, anything. Right? Not saying I agree with it, but it's structure. And also your parents, like if your parents, and I mean that happens a little bit here too. But here's the point. I remember there was this one kid just in class fooling around. Complete bullshit. Like he literally had a portable TV put on Jerry Springer in the back. I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember kind of like going home to my mom and saying, I'm seeing the wildest shit happen in American schools that I could never imagine. And I think that's home training. You don't agree?
No, because y'all find what you'll do. Y'all find the dustiest Negro over here and then compare yourself to the dustiest Negro. But y'all don't want us to do that over there. You go to Jamaica, there's people twerking and jumping off roofs and
That's at a party,
dude. Come on, home training. I done been to clubs in Jamaica, man.
No,
I've been all over Jamaica.
That's a
dude.
party.
All right, whatever.
That's art.
Whatever, dude. I see these people twerking in gravel, pissing in the street, dude. It's what? Come on, home training. I've been to Jamaica, dude. I've been there, dude.
I know.
And I got love for Jamaica. It's some raggedy stuff going on over there, man. Let's keep it a buck. If you talk about that home training, people out there trapping up in the mountains. Dude, come on, let's not go there.
No, we have to go there.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I do believe there's a deterioration of, I would probably say, of just even the family culture, even the Black community, that I think affects this a little bit. Let's be honest. Are we not gonna? And I'm not saying that some of it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that these other places are perfect.
But damn, Jamaica though. The family structure in Jamaica, how is that? Jamaica, most of the people in poverty over there. How's that a good family structure?
Okay, well, we're not talking about necessarily finances at this point. We're talking about, for example,
right? We're not. We're just talking about culture.
When you see delinquents, at least this is from my point of view. When you see delinquents in a place like Jamaica, usually that family is so impoverished, it's crazy. I've seen people just or families or people who come from families who are middle class, pretty decent. I'm not saying well off, but they're just not taking advantage of opportunities, and that's my whole point.
Who's not? How are we not taking advantage of opportunities? Because we're the ones who created the opportunities for immigrant groups to come over here.
Immigrants, I feel like when we get here, we're trying to take advantage of every opportunity, granted whether we create it or not. And I feel like a lot of times I'm having conversations with FBAs, right? Who I feel like opportunities there in front of them, they're not taking advantage of it.
What are we not taking advantage of that you're taking advantage of? Y'all come over here and be.
I think school is one of the things.
Dude, we do the school thing, dude. We do that, and
Tariq,
then we do. And then we do business.
I guarantee, and I know you're a guy who's definitely also probably focused on like statistics and numbers as well.
Right.
I guarantee if we grab like statistics of immigrant Americans, this is all Black people, right? Immigrant Black Americans versus FBAs at whatever college, I guarantee immigrant Black Americans are doing better on a average. You don't think so?
If I send,
and then you tell me why.
If I send 5 foundational Black Americans to Jamaica who got money, on average, they're going to be doing better than the average Jamaican. If you send a select group of people anywhere that you've cherry picked,
you're saying who has money,
that's what I'm saying. If you send a small group of people anywhere, on average, they're going to appear to do better if you crunch the numbers a certain way. But that's just not true that you're doing better over here. What would explain that? If you say it's the family structure, then why are you not doing better in your homeland?
Well, no, hold on. No. Okay, so I get what you're saying. You're trying to equate it to there. I don't think you could equate to what's going on in the homeland.
Why not?
Hold on.
Because if you got all of that, family structure, home training, how come it don't work where you come from?
No, it's about an immigrant. It's not about. So I'm not vouching. I'm not trying to say Jamaicans are just better or harder workers, right? Jamaican Americans, Black Jamaican Americans,
any immigrant.
I'm talking about immigrants.
Any of them. If they're so much thorough than us, how come they don't do better in their homeland?
Tariq, let's be honest. I'm telling you, because there's a lack of opportunity in the homeland that you're from. The people who don't
create the opportunity like we did. We created the opportunities here.
I mean, also the white man did too.
Well, who made the white man create them? They didn't want to give us nothing.
We're not.
Let's be very clear.
We're not taking away from the contribution.
You can sit there and pop your collar to the white man. No, the white man was made to say, "Hey, man, we ain't drinking from no damn water fountain no more." But it was us making them say, "Hey, we ain't playing that game no more."
But are you down to say? Are you literally saying that all the opportunities that Black immigrants that come over here to take advantage of were created by foundational Black Americans?
Black Americans were pushing the envelope for that to happen. White people did not want to give us or you opportunities. They didn't even want Black immigrants coming here. You understand that? They didn't want Asian immigrants coming here. We fought for them too.
To a certain extent, I agree with you. Right. But then I have the conversation that moves it forward to say, well, if historically, based on all the leaders and the history of the FBAs here, why do I feel, or maybe it's just me, and maybe clearly I think we differ on this point. Why do the current lot of FBAs? I feel like they don't take advantage of those opportunities created by their ancestors to a lesser extent.
Who's the Caribbean version of Birdman? Birdman's foundational Black American. Puffy, foundational Black American. Easy, he was a foundational Black American. Rest in peace to Easy. Tony Draper. J. Prince, Foundation of Black American. These are very well-to-do Black men, got it on their own, took advantage of the opportunities that their lineage created. You don't have a Caribbean version of that. See, y'all like to compare yourselves.
There's a bunch of people that if you really look,
what's the Caribbean version of them?
Okay, of those people which are one-on-ones, but like if you look,
they're not one-on-ones. It's a lot of Black Foundational Black American
CEOs who are thorough. I know a lot of Black CEOs and executives that we have the same. Me and Steve Stout, who his lineage also tracks back to the Caribbean,
right?
And he echoes the same thing to me. He says, "There's just something about when you come from the Caribbean, or you come from another country,
you come here and you get opportunities that we created. That's the good thing. You have us here helping get opportunities for you. We are the ones who knock those doors down to give you a lane to come on through. We knock those doors down and say, let's do it for minorities, not just for us.
Okay, so I'm not going to discount that, there's someone is paving the road before we get
right.
Do you think in turn, when people like me make the argument, and also people like Candace, who I think takes it a little further, makes the point that, the immigrants are just outworking the FBAs. Do you think that's then disrespectful?
That's because it ain't true. It's just not true. Candace Owens plays the role of a white ass kissing bed wench. That's not hard work. That's something that people were doing during slavery, what she does. That's slave shit she's doing. Also, when Candace Owens got here, when she was like a teenager, it was Foundational Black Americans helping her get money from a racial discrimination lawsuit. So that woman got her come up off Foundational Black Americans. It was some Black people from the NAACP helping her get like $30,000. And then she turned around and jumped over there with white folks talking about ain't no racism. So that's an opportunist.
And I've heard this. So she had a racial...
There was a racial discrimination lawsuit.
Yeah.
You can look this up. And she got with the NAACP. I think this was in Connecticut, somewhere up there in the Northeast somewhere. And she sued these people. NAACP helped her get like a $30,000 bag. There's pictures of her with the NAACP and the whole shebang.
So then, all right. So let me phrase this question at you then. So Candace Owens would describe herself as an independent thinker.
No,
right?
She's not. She's not an independent. She regurgitates talking points from right-wing white supremacist thinking tanks. She's not an independent thinker. Those are talking points that's given to her. All of her arguments are in bad faith.
Okay. But do you believe there could be an independent thinker that disagrees with you? Because I've heard you also say one thing, and I get it too while you say it. You said remaining on code. I've heard that a bunch of times.
Right.
Doesn't that promote like a monolith thinking, where it's like, hey, listen, we have to group think. So everyone needs to think like this just because on the good faith of progress. However, this might not be how you naturally feel. Like what do you feel about that?
Yeah, on code means you got to be about empowerment. If you're a Black person, we should be on code because white supremacy, they're on code with each other in all areas of activity. This is how they remain in power. For example, when you have a person like Kyle Rittenhouse go out here and shoot people, there's a bunch of other white supremacists that's on code with him. The police are on code with him. They didn't want to arrest him. The judge was on code with him. The judge was sitting there acting like his defense attorney. The media.
You think that's what it was?
Oh, did you see the case?
I looked at it, of course.
The judge was his damn defense attorney. The judge sat there and just bent over backwards for Kyle.
The judge definitely.
He
stopped
you couldn't call the people victims. That was a complete farce. The media was on.
Hold on. What's the stake in that though? Because there wasn't any Black victims.
Oh well, Kyle Rittenhouse was allegedly targeting Black people. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to go out there and target Black people. There's video of him pointing guns at Black people, and it was the white people who stepped in to stop him, and that's how the whole thing got going. And white supremacist society, they're cool with that because the people he shot, they're proxies for Black people. It's something out of a book called The Turner Diaries. It's a book that was written in the 70s talking about a race war where white supremacists are going to be attacking Black people. And they said, you got to attack white liberals too, and the nigger lovers and all of that. So that was a whole play on the whole Turner Diary thing where they attack white people who try to help Black folks. So all of them were on code. The media was on code. Everybody was on code in the dominant white society to make sure Kyle Rittenhouse was safe. That's what codification means. We have to be on code as far as empowerment.
So I'll give you a potential aspect of being on code,
right?
And again, I wish I was at my home studio back in like Jersey, because I would have threw up 15 clips of like things she said that I feel like you'd have had a response to.
Oh yeah.
So I'm kind of shooting off the top of my head.
She's blocked me a long time ago.
She blocked you?
Yeah, she's been blocked.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Ask Candace, why did you block me?
She did say that there's a few people she would sit down with, like,
Yeah.
that represents, a black voice, or I don't want to say necessarily a black voice, but the opposite of what she usually is spewing. And she said Killer Mike. She said she would with Killer
I
Mike.
really, to be honest, I wouldn't sit down with her because, again, her arguments are in bad faith and they send her out here to waste time. I go for the white supremacists. If I'm going to sit down and talk about somebody's white supremacist talking points, I like to go for the white supremacists. They'll send her out there as the crash dummy. So even if you debunk Candace Owens, what do you win? You don't win anything with Candace Owens because she really doesn't have any credibility. That's her job, to be the crash dummy. I tell black people, don't argue with the shadow puppets of white supremacy because, again, they create a cottage industry of black people to go out here and spew these dumbass talking points so that we can attack them, and they're already winking at the white supremacists in the corner who's safe. So they're acting as attack dogs. So Candace Owens is a major distraction.
Okay, so regardless, still she is black. So speaking about On Code,
Yes.
I think, and she pretty much spewed this during the conversation I had with her. She said, "Well, a lot of people, I would think she would think were being on code when they all went towards supporting Black Lives Matter." She said she would call them out from day one. Things have came out recently. It's made Black Lives Matter not look in the best light. And she's like, well, this is why if you continue to just follow down a path of being on code, you're getting like misled.
Black Lives Matter is a code word. The organization Black Lives Matter, black people really didn't follow that organization.
But they collected a lot of money
from white people. White people gave them money. And it was white people who got that money. They put 3 figureheads up there and pretended that they were the leaders, but it was really white people behind the whole Black Lives Matter website.
Really?
Yeah, it was. What they do, man, they do controlled opposition. When the Mike Brown situation happened.
What do you mean controlled opposition?
Controlled opposition means when you had the Mike Brown situation popping off, you had some real activists out there in St. Louis and Ferguson. I was out there with them, real thorough brothers. All of a sudden, you had these random people nobody knew pop up talking about Black Lives Matter, trying to take the momentum of the energy and then shift it to something else. So all of a sudden, the cameras came down, and then you had these activists who nobody knew making a lot of noise, and then the cameras got on them. And once the cameras got on them, they were like, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Also, LGBT lives matter too, and immigrant matters. And they start talking about all of this. They flip the energy.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Black Lives Matter website, they'll talk about some dead black person and then talk about trans lives and LGBT and so that's controlled opposition. That's meant to dissipate the energy. And we knew that on the grassroots.
It doesn't that go into like, I felt, and this is just me as just, an American who, even though I'm not a foundational Black American, like, I feel I have a stake in things that would affect people who look like me. Right. And I thought that was like I don't know if this is common consensus about like even Barack Obama's, like his term. I felt like, and actually, let me spit this out first.
Yes.
I'm not a Trump supporter, but I do like what Trump do in terms of he fucks with his people. Like he's straight up with it. Like whoever who rocks with him, he's not sugarcoating that shit.
Right.
And I felt like when Barack was in there, we're hoping he was just like, yo, I'm signing this just for the brothers. I don't give a fuck what y'all was gonna say, right? And I think that's when I started watching like, wait, they're just throwing in everybody in this. They're lumping this is the minority. This is the minority president, not the black president.
Right.
And I look at it and I'm like, what do you think about that? In a way of where something is supposed to be for one thing and then they're kind of like siphoning other things in.
That's a trick they've been doing since the 1960s. It's called benign neglect. After the riots in the 60s, they said, hey, we got to stop black people from turning up. So what we have to do is stop promising them things, because the problem is during the 1965 Civil Rights Act, 64 Civil Rights Act, they told black people that everything is going to be equal. You're going to have equality. We're going to give you all of these things. They never did it. And in the late 60s, there were riots all over the country that people don't really like talking about. Black folks turned up. So they had to say, hey, look, we got to do a study and see what's going to calm these folks down. Let's calm them down by just ignoring them. So anytime we talk about something that's supposed to happen for black people, let's include everybody in it so we don't have to give anything to black people, particularly foundational Black Americans. So when they came up with affirmative action, instead of saying we're going to give it to black people, they used black people as the mascot, saying, look at how bad these people are treated. So we're going to give affirmative action to minorities. What's a minority? Anything is a damn minority. White women, Mexicans, Asians, handicapped people, LGBT. Even today, whenever they give a minority program or some tangibles for minorities, it goes to everybody except foundational Black Americans. That's why we're delineating now so that we can stop playing this game where we talk about this minority coalition where we're supposed to get some that we never get it. And we've been waiting on other groups to be reciprocal, and they're not helping either. We thought if we help everybody else get something, sooner or later they'll say, hey, let's fight for Black folks. That has never happened. So we're like, we're going to start getting tangibles for foundational Black Americans right now.
Some might be like, that's actually hurtful in the sense of when you then divide and you just make it a FBA type of thing. Again, most of the things that get triggered to get accomplished is by strength in numbers.
No, because right now the Biden administration, they signed all types of policies specifically for Asians with that Asian hate thing.
Yeah,
you feel me?
Yeah, I know.
You feel me?
I agree with that one.
Out here,
I don't know what's going on.
I'm telling you what's going on out here in California. They have all types of set asides and benefits for Hispanic immigrants. You don't even have to be documented. They give money specifically to Ukrainians. They gave billions of dollars to Ukrainians.
By the way, I also want your opinion. I seen it today. I don't know if you've seen it. They said they're giving like full health care for like immigrants.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, they can give everybody else stuff very specifically, but when we say, hey, we need something specific, oh, that's divisive. Oh, we can't do that. Yeah, you can do that, and you're going to do that if you want us to participate in the political process.
So let's advance the conversation.
Yes.
What is it that would make, and obviously there's nothing that would make, a country built upon slavery and infringing on people's rights and torturing and killing, a specific group of people. There's nothing, especially even monetarily, you could do to make it whole.
Oh, yes, they can.
Well, it wouldn't be fully whole, but they could begin the process. Let's be honest. Yes, so I feel like you're a representative just like of the demands of that group of people. Where does it start? How does it really get legislated? And how does it be a thing where it's not like, oh, okay, let's get you to buy in on this, and then later you're watching like the Asians like just collect all the millions, right?
So reparations, they got to do reparations specifically for foundational Black Americans.
How do they tell who's foundational?
That's what we're doing out here in California. They have a reparations committee that we've been on their bumper, and we made sure that they made it lineage based because there were people trying to make it race based so they can just give it to any Black person who was harmed by racism. That's very dangerous because if you do that, you allow other immigrant groups to come in. So now Hispanics can say, well, I was harmed by racism. I need to get in on that too. You got to make it lineage based.
Let me ask you a question. So two people who one came from Trinidad, one came from Haiti. They've been here since the 90s. They had a kid. The kid's now 30. The kid says, all I know is here. I need some of that reparation money.
Because he's not a descendant of slaves in America. He's not a foundational Black American. The foundational Black American reparations claim is a specific claim about slavery. See, this is not a claim about racism. Okay. If we want to have a reparations thing about racism, that's a whole different claim. We're talking about something that happened to a specific group of people. We were enslaved in this country and we were never compensated for it. We need that group compensated. You can tell who's a foundational Black American. You go back to the 1870 census. If you can trace your lineage back to that census, you're a foundational Black American. Also, you have to be classified as Black for the last 10 years. That's another thing too, because white people will try to say, well, hell, look at, I got a great grandfather who was a slave and they're white now. You know what I'm saying? They've been trying to pull that type of game. No, your ass gonna sit down somewhere. Yeah.
So you're making sure there's nobody's gonna come to finesse.
None of that. No finesse. No Rachel Dolezals, no Justin Timberlakes, and none of that fake shit. So yeah, you have to be classified as Black. I wanted to go further. You have to have Negro, Black, or colored on your birth certificate. I wanted to go there.
But wait, you do know, like within, the Black community, there's been a lot of culture mixing and a lot of, mixing. Like, for example, you might have somebody who's a foundational Black American who then had three kids with three women, and one might be from the islands, one might be, from Africa, whatever. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? But how do you figure out who to really give if they have to be of pure blood at that point?
No. So if you can trace one parent back to a plantation, you're good. That's all you have to do, even if it's one person, your mom or whatever, and you got
white people are definitely gonna get that shit in.
No, hell no, because you got to still be classified as black. You got to be classified as black still. You have to be classified as black now.
Rachel,
yeah, but on your birth certificate, Rachel Dolezal ain't black on her birth certificate. That's why I say we got to have
transracial.
But on her birth certificate, she ain't black. You see. But yeah, man, there's a lot of people who have foundational, and they're still qualified for reparations.
How much money?
Man, we're talking about starting off with 20 trillion. Let's start off with 20 trillion.
How many people do you think is being affected? So 20 trillion for how many people?
Like they say it's like 40 million of us. I think there's more because we're undercounted. A lot of black people, we don't like taking the census thing. We don't. A lot of us, we live under the radar. That's another reason why I think they're afraid of really giving reparations, because they're going to see the true number when they start showing that we're going to get checks. You're going to start seeing
people coming out of the woodworks.
They're coming out the damn woodworks. Yeah. I believe there would be about 70 million black people here, man. To be honest, I believe there's way more foundational black Americans than being counted.
So let's talk logistics. Where does the 20 million come from?
The United States government. Because that's where
out of any specific budget, or just find the
no. What was the budget for the COVID relief? They came up with money for that. Where was the budget for the damn Ukrainians? That came out of nowhere. Give me some of that Ukrainian money. The money you gave to the bailout for the corporation. They come up with money all the time. The money they gave to the Afghanistanians. Give me some of that.
So I think this is one of the reasons why white folks specifically are resistant to anything about a reparation, is that once they have finally admitted that they owe, it's going to be one of those things where you not only collect, but you go back to the back of the line, or you come back later and said, I need more. So is this a one-time payment? And how would that break down to like every particular black foundational black American? How would that break down, like per average? Is it like 100,000? Like, what is it?
There's a lot of different logistics to it. Sometimes it could be in monthly payments. It could be one lump sum payment for the family. So the logistics of it, that's something that we can get to when we get to it. And again, we're starting off with cash payments. That's a start off. Then we got to get into land grants, because so many black people had their land taken. They were run off their land. They were out here in California, Los Angeles. They had something called Bruce's Beach. The family just got their land.
I just read that.
They just got their land back up there a few miles.
How the hell did they get that back? I would imagine like they would fight that shit to the
grassroots. Yeah, the grassroots movement, man. The grassroots. Yeah. You on it. You stay focused and let these people know, hey, we need what's ours, man. There's a place up there north of Bakersville called Allensworth, where a bunch of black people founded a town, and they ended up poisoning the water supply and ran the black people off. The place is a tourist attraction up there, but we are so grounded in building so many of these communities, and we've been wronged by the society. So we have to be compensated, and there's different ways to do it. But just the fact that they have to do it, that's the main thing.
What about if they look at it and they say, well, we're going to kind of treat this like how we treated the Native Americans, in a sense. Like, you know what, we'll kind of like give you guys some land. And if you guys live in that, if the FBAs live in that particular place, we won't govern it. We'll give you some tax breaks, this and third, but chill out with the money. We're not giving you shit. You know what I mean? It's like one of those type of things.
No, man, the Native Americans are papered the hell up. I was just in Arizona, man. Them Navajo Indians got so much paper and land and casinos. And shit popping, right? Man, you can't even go on their land unless you pay them. They're like, yeah, you give me some money, I'll show you around. They got all types of paper. Schools, they got their own police force out there. They balling the hell out, man. Give me some of that. Give some of that to foundational black Americans.
So that could be a start of the conversation.
Well, give me the money for give me the same thing you're giving to these Native American tribes. They are papered up. They got all these casinos out here in California, big time. And what's interesting, a lot of the Native Americans out here were black-skinned people. The Ohlone Indians, the Mojave Indians, which the Mojave Desert is named after them. These were black-skinned people. Hell, California was named after a black woman, Queen Califia, a mythological black woman from a Spanish novel that was in Moorish Spain. So we've always had a major presence out here in the Americas and in California.
Well, I mean, a lot of what she said, I felt like I wanted a particular rebuttal that maybe I wasn't prepared at that time for. Maybe I think it's within your wheelhouse to be more knowledgeable of that. But she Candace Owens once endorsed a movement called Blexit, which was the black people exiting from the Democratic Party. And I think in theory, I think that's not a bad idea, because I think we've been loyal to one particular party that pretty much just hits us with a bait and switch. You know what I mean? Bunch of promises. You get to the point where like a presidential candidate saying, if you ain't black if you don't vote for me. You know what I mean? He's a white dude. You probably agree with her on that, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not a fan of the Democrats. I'm not a fan of the Democrats at all.
Really?
And I'm not, I don't like the Democrats. I've been critical of Biden, his team, Kamala. Yeah, I've been on their bumper, man, heavy.
So politically, what should black people do? Because the other, representative at that time, when they were running, the candidate was Trump. So would you tell them to vote for Trump?
Well, here's the thing. I told black people don't vote at all unless we get some tangibles, because the Republicans aren't really giving it anything. Let's be clear. Candace Owens, she's an operative for the Republicans, for the right-wing conservative think tank.
I asked her that a lot. She literally said that she wasn't, in that she disagrees
she's with
them
PragerU. Dennis Prager is a suspected white supremacist, has this think tank, has a bunch of people on there spewing anti-black talking points. So she works for these suspected white supremacist think tanks. That's what it is. She's a one-trick pony. Her job is to go out here and spew these anti-black talking points and to justify black people getting harmed while she gets papered up. That's all she does.
But do you think that's necessarily just always pro-conservative, or maybe just her point of view just doesn't align with everything that someone who might be black and Democrat?
Well, if your point of view is the same thing as the white supremacists all the time, that's not a real point of view. That's a bad faith argument, and you're just out there spewing talking points. And that's propaganda. That's not your ideology. Because if your ideology was independent, we would agree on something at least some of the time. Your talking points wouldn't be the same as all the people on Fox News. It's all of their talking points. Notice they all sound the same in unison. They'll come out with a specific talking point about Black Lives Matter, and then they'll change it up about critical race theory. That's the new talking point now. That's a talking point. That means nothing. These are boogeyman tactics that are passed down from white supremacist think tanks. So it's all bad faith arguments.
What do you think about critical race theory?
Critical race theory is a talking point. That's basically a code word for black folks. Critical race theory means if you go, let me tell you, they've always used these weird code words for black people. Like in the 60s, instead of using nigger, they started saying communist. So when Dr. King, he's not a nigger, he's a communist. What does that mean? This is whatever I make it mean. Then they start talking about, well, Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. Who's Black Lives Matter? All you niggas.
Yeah.
Welfare queens. Look at all these welfare queens. What about Chicago? Chicago is a code word for black folks. That's a code word for black people.
You're right. Okay, you're right.
So critical race theory, if you talk about racism, well, that's critical race theory.
Well, isn't so? The argument I've heard is that there's a new thing that critical race theory is being taught in school, and it's like,
no, it's not. What? No, it's not. What's critical race theory? Can you define what it is?
Well, it's. I really don't know the full.
Everybody does the same thing when you ask for a definition. Well, it means nothing. It literally means nothing. It's like the N-word. It's like the word nigger. The word nigger has no definition.
Well, all right. So I'll give you what I've heard. It's basically kind of instilling in the curriculum certain things that certain people think is harmful to the black community, because it kind of builds a level of whether it's excuses or just victim mentality. I think that's how I've heard it being described.
Right, and that's relative, because English can be destructive to the black community to a certain degree. If you start teaching about English and the etymology of English and certain English words that were used and where they came from, people can look at that and get offense to it. Like the word, for example, we talk about the Moors in Spain. Moor used to mean black. They started using the term blackamoor, then they started using the term black. They just cut off the word more and started using black. So some people could say, well, that's negative because black is a negative word. So it's relative. You know what I'm saying? So what they're meaning is, if you teach about racism, if you point out the racism of historic figures, because if you teach history, you're going to teach about a white supremacist, especially in American history. All of the forefathers were white supremacists in their own words. So if they try to criticize you for teaching critical race theory, that's a contradiction, because if you go to a school, and I lived in Alabama as a child, I went to a school called Robert E. Lee Middle School. Robert E. Lee was a white supremacist Confederate. The Confederates believed in white supremacy. That was their words. Their whole thing was to fight the U.S. government in order to keep a white supremacist regime, to keep black people subjugated. So you can't complain about me pointing that out in a school named after a white supremacist. You see, where does the critical race theory stop, or where does it end? It's just a code word, meaning you're not supposed to teach the truth about racism and white supremacy. That's all it is. So they want to keep up statues and monuments of people who scream white supremacy, but we're not supposed to say it,
So, and this goes to another thing, you've said this a lot, and I feel like sometimes people look at others when they say this term at this point, white supremacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
White supremacy, some people would say, well, what is the definition of white supremacy? Because it kind of, white supremacy, I feel like, has taken the almost a definition of like porn, where like, the historical definition is like, you can't really define, but you see it, right? So like, what would you, if someone is saying, how could I see white supremacy affecting me? They're black, but they don't get it. What would you define that to? Because I know a lot of times you'll say, well, so-and-so, they're working under the veil of white supremacy. And then we're thinking, well, is this an organization? Do they have like some type of a particular code? Who's the leader? Like, where they meet? What's going on? What would you necessarily say?
Yeah, white supremacy is basically controlling and dominating people systematically based on race. That's what white supremacy is. That's always been the definition of white supremacy. And the people who created white supremacy came up with that definition. We got to understand, the white supremacists were very open about white supremacy and instilling that into the public consciousness for centuries. Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, even the Constitution, not the Constitution, but a Supreme Court justice law, used the word white supremacy. They were using the words white supremacy themselves. Going into the
directly?
60s. Yes. Thomas Jefferson has a book called Letters from the State of Virginia, where he talked about how supreme the white race was. Abraham Lincoln talked about how supreme the white race was. A lot of them talked about how supreme the white race was. There was Judge Taney in a Supreme Court ruling for the Dred Scott decision. He talked about a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect, the inferiority of the black man, the superiority of the white race. This was a Supreme Court law that was put in on document. They had books going all in through the Jim Crow era of them just talking about white supremacy, white supremacy. The white feminists were talking about white supremacy, white supremacy. They were holding up signs in the 60s, white supremacy, white supremacy. So that's their word.
How does it manifest to like today? Like,
white supremacy dominates all areas of activity. There's not one single area of activity that's not completely dominated by white supremacy right this minute. See, we think of white supremacy now as white extremists. We think of the Klan. That's what the white media wants you to think. They want you to think, well, white supremacy is the skinheads. White supremacy, that's just the Proud Boys. No. The white supremacists are the people at the school board.
Would you consider, there was a woman who was standing with Trump recently, and she was like, after the Roe v. Wade, pretty much that being overturned, she was just like, yo, listen, well, white lives, like basically say white lives matter.
It's a great victory for white lives.
Yeah, great victory for white lives.
That's white supremacy, right?
Is that like the embodiment of white supremacy?
Even the abortion law, the abortion ban, which I'm for, by the way. I don't care about no abortion. Because we need to have a pause button on all the debauchery that we get into as black folks. But
so you don't care that
they can ban it. They can ban it. That's fine. Because people need
don't you think that disproportionately affects and disenfranchises black and brown people who probably don't have the resources to take those because what white people
who's the brown people? Because I have a problem with that term. Who's the brown people?
Like
I don't
black and brown.
Term. Who the hell are brown? Who's brown?
I think they just say Middle Eastern people, and also
Middle Eastern
Hispanics.
They consider themselves white. You look at their paperwork; they don't say nothing about no brown. Middle Eastern and Hispanics all classify themselves as white. They don't look at themselves as
but
brown.
They definitely apply for everything that would fall on the minority.
Yeah, I know that. That's a come up for them. Yeah.
So you don't believe you believe that categorizing people as brown people is
because nobody classifies. There is no, the brown is a mythological thing. Nobody classifies themselves as brown. And notice they always use black and brown. So whenever we do
a rapper, you ever heard of rapper Nav? He calls himself the brown boy.
What's his name?
Nav.
What is he?
He's an Indian guy.
East Indian?
I don't know. He's just Indian.
Okay.
His name is Navaraj.
Okay. Ain't nobody heard of his ass. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. But yeah, the black and brown, ain't no black and brown, man. There's no black and brown.
I feel like he's just not inclusive. Like, yo, Tariq, you gotta let us everybody in. First of all, you don't want us immigrants in.
We've already let everybody in. Damn. Everybody's in. They here.
Yeah, no, but let us into, like, we're all for the plight.
No, yeah, our plate. Yo, you're for the plate, not the plate.
No,
Our
the
plate of
plate.
food. No, man, y'all in to get it for you.
No.
Everybody's brown when they want to get something that we done fought for.
I think that happens with a lot of Hispanics.
Yeah, because when they get something, when you give some money to some Hispanics, ain't no black nowhere. They don't bring us in nothing.
That is, I think sometimes there's certain ones that I won't say everyone from a Hispanic country. Some of them code switch. And when I mean
major,
switch,
they play like 3-card Monte. What they do, they'll play the white. They play the white Spanish.
Yeah.
Spanish is white. They'll play the indigenous. They'll play that card, and then sometimes they'll play the African card.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes when it's something that's really specific for them, they make it very clear. We ain't black. We ain't
absolutely.
That
black shit. Yeah. Absolutely. So I got a problem with that. I got a major problem with that.
And actually, what I think I heard, like, I guess this was off the polls around, like, the last president election. They were like, a lot of the Hispanics that were even immigrants, they more identify with Republicans. They're like, all that black shit going on over there, that ain't us.
Especially down in Miami. Them Cubans, Cubans get over here off these democratic policies that we done fought for. We done got our heads bust to get them over here, and they come over here and be like, MAGA. They come over here with a damn MAGA hat on.
So is that one of the reasons? Are you like, yo, come on, we gotta just kind of just protect house?
Yeah, because what happens is, man, we fight to get these groups over here. We elect people to bring these groups over here. We have our organizations that's supposed to work for us, like the Congressional Black Caucus, who don't do one thing for black people, but they do everything for immigrant groups, everything. And then when immigrants come over here, they turn around and say, well, how come y'all don't pull yourself by your bootstraps? Damn, I did it. Well, damn it, you did it because I helped your ass. Yeah.
I just also thought about it. I'm like, my man 21 Savage, he's an immigrant.
Yes, he is. He's from the UK. He's British, and nobody knew that.
Yeah. I mean,
until he got hemmed up, nobody knew that.
Well, and even so, one might say, well, if you believe white supremacy is tainted and is basically here to, subvert, the plight of FBAs and the ascension of people of our color, well, why not? Would you deal with them? Like, in terms of, if they rule everything, isn't the only option to just create like independence separate from them? Because again, if you work with them in any capacity, if there's this white supremacy that's still operating in a very thinly veiled, because we're now operating that it's not just extremists, you're never gonna defeat it then. So how do you then operate in a country where you're acknowledging this is a problem, but if you continue to work with these motherfuckers, they're always gonna keep you subjugated?
And that's why we have to be codified. We have to be on code, and we have to have people around us who are on code, because when we try to get stuff done independently, the white supremacists will oftentimes sabotage it. When we do black businesses, a lot of black businesses are actually sabotaged. So when people start saying, well, how come you guys don't take advantage of the opportunities? Foundational Black Americans, man, we built so many institutions and industries that were destroyed that we had to rebuild over and over again. Nobody has had to deal with that. The Black Wall Street, the one in Tulsa, and many other Black Wall Streets that were around the country. Out here in Los Angeles, you had the Central Avenue area, which was a thriving Black business area that they pretty much put the freeway next to and destroyed that. They're doing that right now on Crenshaw right now. They got that train station they put in the middle of Crenshaw that has uprooted a lot of the Black businesses there. We're trying to buy, we were trying to buy, I'm getting a building on another area, but we're trying to buy real estate out there in the Crenshaw Lamert Park area, and we're running into so many obstacles. And other Black people, when you go in there with cash in hand, they're not letting you buy the real estate. They don't care how much money you got. They will underbid you. It's not a coincidence that man. Some Black folks tried to buy the Crenshaw Mall. They let a white group get the money, and they put in a lower bid for the Crenshaw Mall.
Really?
Again, there's about 3 businesses on Crenshaw that I went in with cash in hand to buy, and they came up with a whole bunch of excuses to not give it to me. I got to get another place that's not too far from Crenshaw. I'll talk about that at another time. But yeah, they play these little games when they're trying to gentrify us out of certain neighborhoods. They don't care how much money you have. That's why Nipsey was targeted. Our good brother Nipsey.
Do you think he was? Like, I've heard so many conversations, and I'm wondering, targeted by who?
Nipsey was targeted by the city because they were trying to get him to, they didn't want him to have his shop there. they were putting nuisance injunctions on his business. That's another con game that they do out here in Los Angeles.
Is it because he was gang affiliated?
No.
Be honest now.
No, it wasn't. No. Okay, if he's gang affiliated, all the damn liquor stores are gang affiliated. Okay, because they'll say, you know what I'm saying? Every liquor store in South Central LA is gang affiliated.
Yeah.
Church's Chicken is gang affiliated. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna play that game. Don't cherry pick the black businesses and say, well, gang members go there, so we got to put an injunction on it. Well, gang members go to all the places. They go to Sally's Beauty Supply. You're not putting an injunction on the Asians. You know what I'm saying? So they do that to black businesses. They'll selectively put a nuisance injunction on it, saying, well, there's gang activity here, and we have to do a stakeout, and then they get a court order to really uproot them from the business. Nipsey, instead of him leaving that area, he bought it from the landlords, and they were like, oh my God, we didn't know he was going to do that. Then all of a sudden, some random dude who's a known informant steps up there and shoots him in broad daylight.
So it feels like you don't believe that his death was just like what I think a lot of people are trying to or starting to like accept is that it was just a random incident that happened with the guy who they had some conversation about snitching, and the guy just came back and snapped. He's crazy.
There's too many. I do business out here, man. I'm doing business with a lot of these real estate developers, and I see the stuff they do behind the scenes. There's other black folks whose businesses are being targeted just like Nipsey. They can get them out of there. They don't have the money that Nipsey had. They put these nuisance injunctions on a lot of black businesses, man. I see it. Nipsey just had the money to stick around, and that area is going to have a high real estate value because they're bringing the Olympics here.
Do you think they're gentrifying that area?
Yeah, big time.
So you're saying that they're trying to say, let's get all the gangs, the really the black. Let's get the black people out here. Let's let them get them out of here.
Let's get the black people. Yeah. Whenever we start making real estate deals, when you start buying property and the value is going to go up, that's a threat. They've always looked at that like, oh, you about to deal with some real money now. They already built the football stadium out there near that area. So there's real money.
I've always wondered how that matters. I feel like they had a stake in that.
Yeah, there's a lot of big money. And the train station out there too, the commercial real estate is about to boom out there. They know that. So yeah, it's not, I don't think it's just a coincidence that this dude just ran up and shot Nipsey and it was just some gang shit. No. I think it was more than that because it happens too much. Anytime black people start making these real estate deals, when we start getting property and that property is going to have value, all of a sudden we end up dead. The place gets burned down. Everybody ends up lynched. It's too much of a coincidence to me.
How do you avoid that then?
Us being on code about it. That's what us being on code and understanding what's going on so we can protect each other. That's very important. Okay. Because look, down in Atlanta, they tried to do the same thing in Atlanta in 1906, I think. They tried to run all the black people out of Atlanta.
I feel like they're doing it now.
Yeah,
with like some of these, like, hey, all you niggas in gangs, let's get y'all in.
Yeah.
But also that's ran by a black woman too.
Yeah. Fonnie. And I told people not to vote for her. I told people,
really?
I knew she was.
You knew about her.
I knew her get down, and I was supporting Paul. What's Paul? The other guy before him, I was supporting.
I think she's following the Kamala Harris.
Because when she was getting elected out there, I saw she was clicked in with the police. The police unions were giving her money. I said, man, this woman is going to be bad news. She's going to let all these cops go, and she's going to start locking brothers up left and right. And people were like, nah, she's cool. That's our sister.
It always feels like it takes a black face to usher the bullshit in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
that's what they do.
The way she talks is she's like, yo, I'm gonna be harder on these niggas than they ever been.
Yes, indeed. While she's giving the cops a pass.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like the way she talked about it, like she said, I love the RICO charge. That's a tool I love to use. I'm gonna clean the streets up with it.
Yeah, but she's not doing anything about those corrupt cops out there shooting random people and all of that stuff. So they always get them a good.
Is that still happening a lot? Because I feel like the media's disappeared with that type of showing the presence of it.
Yeah, well, they kind of try to hide it now because people make a big deal out of it and they try to bury those stories now, but it's still happening out here. The brother just in Akron, Ohio, they shot him 60 times. 7 white cops shot this brother 60 times. It was 60 bullet holes in his brother a couple of days ago out there in Akron, Ohio. So we're still watching this stuff go down. The white media don't like to talk about it on a national level, but it's still happening out there.
I've seen you also talk about, and I think this is why when I hear your name get mentioned, whether it's like on Twitter, I think Twitter is a really toxic place, but like even I'll see certain people have certain narratives about you, and I've seen certain times like some of the I would say some of the black SJWs, they don't really fuck with you like that, man. Like some of them, and
but are they really relevant though?
No, but I guess it would go to the overall point of someone saying, well, Tariq might be more divisive than uniting. And in any movement, especially when you're trying to lead against somewhat oppression or white supremacy, you need a uniter. Like I've seen you kind of like, kind of get into it a few times with like, what's some of these people's names? Like some of Lamu. I don't even know these people, bro. Like you probably know them, but like you
and a lot of these social justice warriors are really Democratic shields. Let's be very clear.
Okay,
A lot of
what
these
does that
people,
mean?
meaning they are operatives for the Democrats. The Democrats put these people out here. They work for liberal media companies. They work for the DNC. They might work for a particular candidate, and they'll push them out here to talk like us and act like they're grassroots, but they're really funded by some left-wing think tank.
Why do you think it's mostly women? I feel like
because of feminist groups, white feminist groups.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've heard you kind of talk about that, where I think your point of view, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you feel like a lot of people who should be on code with what Black people got going on, they're almost representing this quote unquote feminist movement more so than what Black people have going on, and they're working for white feminists pretty much.
And it's not even really them supporting the feminist movement. That's just a Trojan horse. A lot of these women and dudes too. It's a lot of dudes too.
Yeah, the time is changing.
A
lot of dudes.
A lot of these,
I think it's pandering though.
It really is. But a lot of these social justice warriors are non-FBA too. That's another thing, because we look into their backgrounds, and a lot of them come from immigrant backgrounds.
Oh, don't come on, Tariq, you gotta give us immigrants.
We on everybody's bumper.
No,
when we start looking at and they sit up in there, y'all stop talking about some tangibles. Y'all stop talking about reparations, man. We need abortion rights. I'm like, who the hell are you? Then we look in their background like, oh, your ass from Haiti. Who are you talking? Don't talk about our business. Yeah, we calling everybody out. You ain't gonna jump up and act as our representative, and you ain't even from here. You know what I'm saying? So we on everybody's bumper, homie.
No, but seriously though, do you think that there could do you think there could be someone could fight multiple plights at once? Like, for example, say someone who, for whatever reason, they are very interested in the feminist movement, the LGBTQ, QIA, progressive movement, and also movements that help Black folks. Like they're for everyone.
Okay, we ain't doing that because we've done that already, and it don't work for us. We've been prioritizing everybody. And if we keep letting them prioritize everybody, it will never stop, man. Let's prioritize Hispanics, and then we'll get to the Black people. Now, when it's our turn, well, let's prioritize Asians, then we'll get to you. Or let's prioritize handicapped people, then we'll get to you. Well, let's prioritize trans people, then we'll get to you. Well, let's prioritize pansexuals, then we'll get. I mean, whatever they say, because I've heard that term before. It never stops, man. They're going to prioritize everybody over us if we let them. We're saying no more of that, man. We got to get tangibles for foundational Black Americans right now.
Does that involve, when someone's trying to get, like, for example, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're trying to get something changed, you're going to have some lobbyists. You have to play the political game to a certain extent.
Not really, but
how else do you get that done then?
The Ukrainians aren't even citizens, and they got billions of dollars. They didn't play the political game.
Yeah, but clearly, if you're saying that we're operating under a system of white supremacy, like, well, Ukrainians, they white. You know what I mean? Again, they're looking on a world scale, a global scale, like it's in their benefit.
You're right. Well, so they didn't do anything politically.
So we need something. We need something to leverage, though, because there's nothing that will ever make them feel that they need to do something
right. And what you leverage is your lack of voting, because see, we get out here and vote just because, if they know we're going to vote anyway, they're not going to do anything. If we let them know we're not going to vote, if you don't do something for us, we're not going to vote at all. And a group of people who drop out of the political process, that's a dangerous group, and they know it, because they're going to come up with alternative ways to get what they need done. They don't want us to think like that.
When someone say that if you don't cast a vote, you are in a sense can't cast a vote because the Republicans are just going to win.
And don't matter, because if the Republicans win, that's fine. We don't have to support them, but if they win, that's fine, because then we're going to play the lesser of two evil games. All right. And if we're going to say who's the lesser of two evils, I would say the Republicans are the lesser of two evils. And I don't have to support them, but I would rather have their policies than the liberal policies. Why? Because with the Republicans, I just got to deal with the white supremacists. And the white supremacists, basically, they'll stand across.
What's that, though?
No. I'm dealing with white supremacy with the Democrats. not only am I dealing with white supremacy with them, I'm dealing with anti-black hatred from Asians. I'm dealing with anti-black hatred from Hispanics. I'm dealing with anti-black hatred from Arabs. I'm dealing with anti-black hatred from the LGBT community. So I'm getting it. We're hitting. They're stabbing us all over. The racist.
This is a one-on-one match, not a handicap match.
Right. So give me the white supremacists. I'm good with just one white supremacist. If he'll stand across the street and throw knives at me, then I can kind of duck the knives. But the liberals
from 5 directions.
The liberals will come up and just hug on you
and just poke you up
and start poking you from the side, man, and tell you they ain't poking you. No, that's not. No, that's my finger. I'm tickling you. Give me the white supremacy if we're gonna play the less than two evils game.
Would you have voted for Trump then?
I wouldn't have voted for Trump. No, because Trump, he too many white supremacists are clicked in with his regime, so I wouldn't have voted for him. But I would have preferred him over Biden.
It appears that he's going to run again come 2024.
Yeah.
I hope Biden's in physically and mentally good condition to run again.
Biden has almost no black support at this point. Only black people who support Biden are old niggas and LGBT niggas. Don't nobody support Biden no more in black society.
I think a lot of not a lot. I think a good amount still do, because you have to admit you were wrong. Because he still got. I know Barack broke the record in terms of galvanizing the black community to vote for him, but he still got pretty decent amount. I think he might have got maybe as much as Hillary in terms of like when she went for the primary.
Say that. To be honest, I do. And people talk about the vote. The election was somewhat of a finesse. I don't think all of those numbers were accurate, because I don't know any black people that were really excited about Biden or voting for him. Also, a lot of people were scared into leaving Trump in office. The white media said, if you leave Trump in office, the white supremacist boogeyman is going to get you.
Exactly.
And I told black people, look, Trump really didn't put any policies together that directly harm black people. You understand? In fact,
so you don't think he was a bad president?
I didn't say he's a bad president, but he didn't harm black people. He didn't put any policies together that actually harm black people. But Biden has always put policies together that specifically harmed us, like the crime bill, so many other things. Prioritizing all these other groups over us, that harms us. So I would have rather had Trump in there. Not that I would have supported him or voted for him, but if we're going to go lesser of the evils, I go with that.
Yeah, I mean, and I know this is trivial in the grand scheme of things, because it's never about the individual. It's more about the large group. But shit, look what's going on with Brittany Griner right now, right? Like, as opposed to shit, at least Trump told them motherfuckers like, yo, give us A$AP Rocky back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unless something gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least to make black people happy for a day.
And I popped my collar to Trump. He got Harry O out of jail. Kodak Black, Lil Wayne, he got some black folks out of there. Just that little bit is better than Biden.
Yeah, I feel like Biden was just like, yo, you niggas support him like you should. Now shut the fuck up while I do what I really came here to do. Which, again, I mean, do you think this is a time, like, even with your movement, maybe it's time that we start, and this is what I was trying to be inclusive, we probably really need a legit third-party system. It can't be just, if we're saying both parties are controlled under a structure of white supremacy,
right?
Why don't we try to build or bridge something else that we could really tangibly leverage?
We can make them leverage it, man. We can make these people do what we want them to do. We just don't support their bullshit. If we just stop supporting their bullshit, that's 80% of the battle right there. The problem is that they come around and they con us into voting for them without giving us something. Understand, politics is warfare without bloodshed. We always have to understand that it's warfare, and we have to look at it like that. When they get around other groups, they talk about what they're going to give those groups. Hispanics are talking about what we're going to get tangible. Asians, what are we going to get tangible? The LGBT, they get billions of dollars from the Democrats. But with us, they only talk about inclusiveness with us, with black folks. They don't talk inclusiveness with all these other groups. When it's us, when we come around, it's all hug fest and kumbaya. Let's twerk and let's love on each other. Damn that. I'm like Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? Let's get this money popping.
I'm wondering, what do you think? And go back to the abortion thing. I read like some crazy statistic recently that, well, in like the year like 2045, the Hispanic race, if we're going to call it that, I don't know if we could, but right. The Hispanics are going to be the demographic that outnumbers white people and outnumbers black folks, right? So they're
right.
going to be a lean demographic, right? Some people believe that it is in the best interest of white people to really stop all that abortion shit, that they could remain and keep those numbers for as long as they can. Now, what's lost in the mix of that is that, first of all, black folks naturally, like since the iteration of time, we're pretty much the number two, and over time, we were hoping, right, with the one drop rule, this and third, we're pretty much gonna level the playing field to an extent through immigration and other things. The Hispanics seem like they're gonna come and just fuck the numbers up, and it doesn't appear that if they get the numbers on their side, they're gonna be looking out for us.
Right.
So, what is it? What is the solution with that when it comes to black folks and just strictly the number game?
Right. Well, the thing is, the problem they have with letting other immigrant groups come in is that you got to go through a hazing process with these immigrant groups. You got to haze them into whiteness. Hazing, you got to whip them into whiteness. They did it with the Italians. They did it with the Greeks. What they did with the Italians, they kind of smacked them around a little bit. Say, hey, you better get on code with us with this white thing, or you're gonna get smacked around like the niggas. They did it with the Greeks. Get on code with us, we'll smack you around like the niggas. They did it with the Irish back in the 1800s. Get on code with us, we'll smack you around like the niggas. Nobody want to be treated like niggas, so let's get on this white code. Same thing with Hispanics. Hispanics have always wanted to identify as white. Now, here's the problem. Most Hispanics have black ancestry. You can't be a Hispanic over here in the Western Hemisphere without black ancestry. Two ways, because the Moors who were in Spain, they were black people. They dominated Spain for 700 years. That Moorish gene is there. Also, all of these Hispanic countries in the Western Hemisphere, they were slave colonies. So there were black people there. So they have these black genes that could be throwback genes. And this is what white society kind of has a problem with, because you'll have a white-skinned Latina, whoever comes over here, but they have a baby with a big ass afro. You know what I'm saying? So they want to, they're kind of weary about them sneaking in those black Moorish genes into white society. That's not a good look for them, because they want to do that pure white thing. So this is why they had to go with the abortion option. This is the last play they have, because their numbers are already dwindling. White numbers are completely down right now. They're retrogressing right now. So their numbers are going to be in the minority way before 2050. You understand? Because their numbers are hella low right now. The average white person is like in their 50s. You understand what I'm saying?
Really?
The average white person is like 53, 54. That's the average age of white people right now. You have cities all around America where these white enclaves, where it's a bunch of old white people, all the young white people bounce. They go to, Miami, New York, and they're not in Boise, Idaho. You know what I'm saying? They're not in, you go around the country.
I went to Nashville, man. I ain't gonna lie to man. This was a different vibe out there.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Y'all went there, and I'm like, yo, where's the hip hop? They were like, this is our country.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. You got a bunch of old white people, and when they leave, these are going to be ghost towns. You literally have ghost towns all around the country where towns have had to close down because all the people died off.
So what's your thought on this? And by the way, this was like a super viral clip, which I think people kind of got at him because I think some of the stuff he said, like Dr. Umar Johnson, he doesn't really, it doesn't seem like he doesn't like the mixing of races, interracial relationships and marriages and stuff like that. Where do you fall on that? And some people might say, well, there's going to be just racial mixing, and we're going to get to an ambiguous place where racism is not a thing anymore, and we have cured all the problems of the world.
Right. Well, people think, I don't want people to think that sexual access to the different races will cure racism, because that's what they promoted in the 60s. If you look at the early blaxploitation movies, they would always have black and white relationships in these movies. They always had these black white sex scenes, because that was a vicarious thing that they were giving to black folks. Like, look, we're equal. We can show you having sex with white women now. And we fell for that trick. Interracial sexual access, we thought that was some kind of tangible, which it wasn't.
What about breeding?
A lot of times the numbers are kind of controlled. They'll sacrifice a couple of interracial relationships in couples, but not many, because most people aren't doing that. And I don't have a problem with it, because look, just when you get out of bed with the people, still think about black empowerment. Don't be confused when you lay it with a white person, because white people are not confused when they lay it with black people.
Well, let's go off, just a one drop rule, and the descendants of those type of relationships or mating or whatever. How do you view someone who's mixed?
In over here,
like, I ain't gonna lie, I know mad mixed people. They go harder for what's being affected. They claim they're being affected by racism more than the extra dark person.
They are. Yes, they are. They are. That's absolutely true. You know what? They are. Yeah. Light-skinned people, especially light-skinned black people who can pass for white.
You think they're being affected more?
Yes, I'm telling you why. Because white people are extra sensitive to them because they can sneak those black genes in. White people have always been very sensitive of those Negroes who could pass. Oh, they're hell on them because
Really?
they can sneak in white society and nobody knows that they're really black, and they sneak them black genes in and nobody knows. They're like, if they see a black person, oh, cool, that's the nigga who stays across the street. He's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? We'll bring him over before 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
But
always hear there's a rapper named Logic, and like he's half black and half white.
yeah,
And there's a couple basketball players that they could pass for like white, like
yeah,
Jason Tatum, and I mean some people talk about even like the mix, like say Drake or whatever the case is.
yeah.
And I would think anytime I hear Drake talk about like racial like shit, I'm like, bro, like the person who I would think gets it the most is the person who is of darker complexion.
No.
They get the vitriol, they get the
Because see,
hate.
you're thinking like a Caribbean, because over there in Jamaica, they have a lot of these
A lot of colorism.
A lot of colorism over there, major over there.
You're right.
And the light-skinned people are basically the white people of Jamaica. They get
Right.
certain privileges and benefits over there.
It's mostly based on colorism.
Yeah, we don't have that shit over here. We don't have that. You don't get no benefit.
We don't really get the bleaching over here.
Right? No, y'all be bleaching the fuck out of your skin over there. Vibes Cartel and all that shit.
Salute to my guy Vibes, man.
Y'all be looking a mess over there sometimes. But I love my Jamaicans. I love you. But I done mentioned some Jamaican clubs, and I saw look like Casper in the face and Akon in the body.
No. Wait. Don't give it to my Jamaicans now. This all Sammy Sosa went crazy. And that nigga from the DR or some shit like that. That nigga,
a lot of that Caribbean stuff.
That nigga just put baby powder on his face. He was running around all crazy. Like, but I mean, we hear and what about like, obviously this is not the majority of the population, but like certain celebrities, like you hear once in a while, be like, oh, Nicki Minaj lightened her skin because she's trying to appeal to white people or people who they'd be like, oh, well, look at Serena Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't think it's a thing here? A little bit?
Not really. And Serena only did it when she got with that white man. You know what I'm saying? The only time she did, she was fine, and she got with the white man. Now she's walking around here with cake soap. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's not really a big thing over here like that. We don't do that like that over here.
I met her one time. She's amazing.
She's a sweetheart, but we don't. That's not our thing. We're kind of comfortable with who we are as foundational Black Americans.
Okay, so all right. So that's why you're saying all right. But colorism matters a little bit too, because when you think about say modeling or whatever the case, we always hear the conversation, yo, these rappers, and I know I'm just talking about entertainment, that cross section, but be like, oh, they don't put the darker skinned women, right? So that's still affecting.
Well, to a certain, but you have to look at a lot of rappers that's out now, man. A lot of rappers are Caribbean. A lot of rappers come from Caribbean backgrounds. If you look at a lot of them are not FBA, man. A lot of these rappers are Caribbean.
Hey, have you ever heard of there's a podcast which I told him, I said, listen, I gave him an advice. Remember Fresh and Fit?
Yeah.
Why you say like no. So I gave him advice. I said, listen. I said, listen, first, y'all don't have a race podcast. You have a relationship podcast. I told him to stay away from race. I'm cool with those guys. I filmed with their student before. And I said to them, I said, because I've had, conversations with them on the phone, kind of like, debating why they might think certain things.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I feel like I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than you guys when it comes to this.
Yeah.
But even I myself wouldn't begin to fight that plight of what you guys are saying, because it is hurtful. Like for them, they're like, well, we clown. Like, for example, I think they said we don't dabble in the dark.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we clown Asian people. We make rice jokes. We've clowned white people and make all type of mayo jokes or whatever. Why can't we clown Black people? And I was trying to explain to them. I said, well, you have to realize it's a different type of connotation, and also there's consequences usually that came with some of these either stereotypes or clowning of Black people. And coming from a different country, sometimes we ignore that. I'll be honest with that.
But yeah, I'm not gonna get clowned by somebody who came from a third world joint. That dude, what's the Myron guy? That dude is from like Sudan. People are dropping dead of hunger over in his homeland. You're not qualified to say anything about a foundational Black American, and your family back home with flies all over the place. And I'm not even trying to disparage, but man, it's not popping over there. You got to fix your homeland before you speak about any foundational Black American over here. That's why people got on his bumper, because we don't like that type of disrespect. Do
you feel like, and I've seen like some criticism of them, they've chalked it up, and by the way, in the same clip, I think they were pretty, people know they do fuck with white women,
of course.
Do you think that it's a Caribbean thing though?
Let's be real. Let's be real. A lot of non-FBA people, not all, but a lot of non-FBA people kind of worship white folks.
You think there's a fetishizing of white
because you live in these countries where it's all black people. All you see are black people. And whenever you see a white person, they're coming in giving you something. Anything positive, you think a white person is bringing it to you. You go to Jamaica, I've been all over. I love Jamaica, but I go to the beach and brothers out there with them white women.
Yeah,
like they're holding on to Jesus, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. So I grew up in the countryside. I'm gonna keep it real with you. When it was a big deal when you heard a white person was in town.
Yes,
it was a big deal.
Yeah,
it was like, yo, this white guy. It felt like it was Santa.
Exactly. Yeah. They worship white, and it's worse in Africa.
So you think it's manifested in a way where, like, you know, and I'm not talking about those brothers disparaging, because I do feel like I fit in the same category with them because I'm an immigrant too. They're immigrants. I think I have some self-awareness, and I could see where even what you're saying, I don't think it's completely bullshit.
Right.
I think. I don't know if it's all black men, but I think even I went through probably a phase of like, oh shit, I want to just fuck some white girls.
Yeah, because again, you're told that white people are God almost. And I know Caribbean parents tell their children, find you a white person, find you a cool white person. They tell their girls, find you a white man. These girls put on their little divestment wigs and go out here and try to find them a white dude. Over here, we don't give a fuck about no white people. We didn't live with white people. We see them living in trailer parks. We know that these are not gods. We see how some of them are.
So then let me advance the conversation, and I'm playing devil's advocate, but I think it would have been a great. Well, I don't know if they're at the race relations debate part that you are at.
Okay,
but I think their message was that they have nothing against black people, but like black women seem to be less compliant, less submissive.
I've heard some of the other stuff. They got problems with foundational Black Americans. Some of those dudes, that one Myron dude just went off on foundational Black Americans, talking about we don't do this, we don't work hard, we ghetto. He just went on a whole thing. So it ain't just about the women. The dude went on and played his whole card, because that's what it's really about. When they try to act like it's about relationships and the quality of women and black women, dude. The women over in his homeland are getting raped by these dudes. They're getting female circumcisions and all of this janky stuff. They can't say nothing about a foundational Black American woman that we're going to accept. He's just not qualified.
Do you think that the relationship between most black men and black women, whether foundational Black American or not, in the Western Hemisphere, in the United States, is different based on just what culture is probably? And I think that's part of their issue. They're like, what's being taught in culture is like, go be a city girl, go fucking make an OnlyFans, keep twerking, blah blah. And they're like, no, we want a woman who would be more, suitable to be a wife, a mother.
They can get the hell out of here with that bullshit, because they got women over there slinging pussy left and right in their homeland, dude. Let's stop playing games, man. It's not like we ain't been over there. We see them on the track out there on the dirt road slinging pussy, man. We see it. Come on, man. We see in the Caribbean. We see it over there. We see it, dude. They be out there doing something.
Fresh is he's from Barbados.
Yeah, they be doing something strange for a little piece of change. You know
well, I do think with him, I told him this though. I was like, yo, because he admits it. He says, yo. He says he used to be banging a lot of them white girls when he used to chill by the beach.
Yeah.
White girls come on vacation. They want to have some good time, get a little BBC.
Mm-hmm.
It was running through them.
Niggas be jiggling themselves out. I don't want to hear about no relationship. I done been all over there. They be up there with them big, fat, husky white women and white men. Them niggas be out there slinging bussy too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yes.
Not no Barbados, man.
Yes.
No, don't put down the Caribbean. Don't put down the Caribbean.
Tariq McMillan's husband wasn't the only one.
Nah, don't.
He wasn't the only one. Now
don't put it on the Caribbeans, man. I think.
I don't want to hear about no relationship. Y'all relationships are janky out there.
Okay, do you think there's a deterioration in culture, Black culture? Well, what do you think about just culture, family culture? Do you think, obviously you could think about the government's role to a certain extent. At one point, they were taking the black fathers out of the home. Feels like it was a way to strip Black families of having a complete structure that could, lead to better results just historically, right? Do you think that whether it's culture through music, through movies, through other things, for example, welfare, like if and Candace mentioned this, if the father in the home, they're gonna pay you more.
And Candace like talking about that welfare and all of that stuff and the deterioration of the family.
She blamed welfare a lot.
Yeah. But here's the thing, man. we're going back to this in the 1960s. That's when we saw the turn. We saw the turn after 1965. Before 1965, foundational Black American families were together. We were codified. What did we start seeing afterwards? We started seeing a lot of degenerate behavior in Black neighborhoods. Why did it happen overnight? It happened because of, one, a lot of immigrants coming over.
No.
Yes, indeed.
No.
Yes, indeed. We started getting these people. We started getting immigrants coming over to Black neighborhoods that we didn't know. They weren't on code with us, and then we started to see crime rates pop up left and right.
You can't blame that.
I'm putting it on some of y'all, brother. That's when we started seeing it. We're talking about welfare fraud and all that. They came over dropping off anchor babies because they understood if you had a baby over here, you can get citizenship. So yeah, we start seeing single mothers all over the place, but nobody ever asked where they were from. They were Black. Oh, okay, that's our sister. But a lot of these folks had these little weird accents on the low, especially in New York, man. Come on, let's keep it a buck, bro.
Come on. Hey, no.
Y'all were bringing that over here.
One thing with this guy, man, he stays on code. No, we
hold on. Even in the dope game, man, even our drug dealers weren't that violent, man. Freeway Rick, that's my dude. He wasn't violent. But the shower posse, come on, man, y'all were killing everybody up and down the East Coast, man. We weren't doing that.
Killing been going on for forever when it came to the
dealers. Didn't do all, even the trappers didn't do all that stuff, man. Y'all brought a whole bunch of other stuff over here, brother.
Stop.
Yes, I'm putting it on you. Yes.
Hey, this is where we're gonna firmly disagree. No way. No, hold on. I'm not gonna say there weren't, because I think even when you think about Hispanics, and even like how Miami changed when, cocaine.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of people
start getting all this dope. Where did the dope come from? We didn't manufacture none of it. It was coming from all these other places. These other people immigrating over here.
But we got to be honest, really. It's I'll say shared. You can't just throw it on us.
Well, there's some things that happen with some of the liberal policies. And
Frank Lucas, all them niggas, they were foundational Black Americans.
But they weren't murdering a bunch of people. Frank Lucas probably killed a couple of people. They weren't murdering a lot.
Snitched on him.
Nicky Barnes. It was Alpo and them dudes killing folks left and right, man. You know what I'm saying?
Is Alpo FBA, ain't he?
No,
hold on. Don't throw him over here.
No. Was it Alpo?
I think he is. I think he has some like Jamaican.
Yeah. It was them dudes over there killing folks left and right.
Stop it. So you're trying to act like there was some just peaceful mess going on.
No, we had some of our rowdy folks, but a lot of the rowdy
all the gang stuff. Come on now.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
All the gangs, we in California, all the gangs, blood and cripping. We've seen how that shoot. I mean, and I don't want to throw random gangs into it, but
right.
I'll just ask the question: what about the GDs and the BDs?
Right.
Don't that all stem from the FBAs? Come on now.
To be honest, a lot of people out here in LA, a lot of Black people are actually Belizean. A lot of folks don't know that. A lot of Black people in LA are actually Belizean.
Okay,
you look at a lot of rappers, they're not really FBA.
Okay. But you're good with history. You're good with history.
Yeah, I know history and sociology and geography.
So let's start tracing the lineage. You remember you said lineage.
Yeah.
Let's start tracing lineage of some of these gangs that, why some of these injunctions now exist here and all these gang laws is because there's a lot of violence previously. And by the way, it's kind of cool, compared to the past, where'd that come from?
Man, again, I'm telling you, a lot of the violence, look, out there in New York, where y'all from, man.
No. We talking about Cali.
Yeah, I'm just talking about gangs, because now the gangs out there, the drill rappers, all of them are on FBA.
Hold on, wait, no, we gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We gonna get to that, but wait, we got to admit that in California, this is something that kind of stemmed from FBAs. We can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know some of the OGs again.
Okay.
It was something that was supposed to be somewhat progressive. They were trying to stop white supremacist groups. Some of the gangs were forming out here. And then when a lot of the psychotropic drugs were introduced, that kind of changed the game. We got to understand in the 70s, a lot of the OG gang members, a lot of them were whacked out on angel dust and PCP and Sherm sticks and all of that. So the drugs had a lot to do with that too.
And if we're gonna talk about whether it's drill rap or even gangs in New York, I'm giving that to the FBAs as well. Like, look what happened in Chicago.
Drill rappers and most of them are not even FBA. Most of them drill rappers are Caribbean dudes.
Well, I see some of the Spanish kids; they're going crazy now.
Yeah.
I see a lot of them. I'm like, he got a little bit too many curls doing all this drilling.
Yeah. And even a lot of dudes in Chicago, a lot of them come from immigrant backgrounds.
No, they don't.
But look at what happened with Jussie Smollett. Those Nigerian dudes up there trying to pull a twist. There's a lot of immigrant groups.
Jussie Smollett was straight FBA. Look at the fraud he tried to do.
No.
He's
kind of half it. I think his
dad is white. He's full. His
dad is white. His dad is white.
No, he's not. Is he?
Yeah, his dad is white. Yeah, they got a white dad.
Caucasian.
Yeah. Jesse's dad is
Jussie
black.
Smollett.
Yeah, they're him and his sister. His sister, what's her name? She was in that Lovecraft show. Yeah, their dad is
First
white.
of all, and matter of fact, I would spin that on you.
Mhm.
I think he took advantage of those black brothers, those guys who I think they were struggling to get their papers or something like that. He got them on some type of scam, got them fucked up.
Well, shit, did they have to help them with a scam? Because a lot of the niggas you come over here looking for a scam to throw.
No,
come on, man. A lot of these cats be trying to get their little scam.
I'm gonna be honest. All right, hold on. Listen, I'm still sticking on the point. I think immigrant people come over here and sometimes work the hardest. I mean, shoot.
Not really, because we've already done what you haven't done anything that we haven't done. What are you doing that
Boosie just said? Boosie just said, even though the same black people, he said he wanted some Mexicans to build some shit at his crib.
Yeah, but just cheap labor,
hard workers.
But look at Mexico.
I guarantee if you're repairing your roof, you get some Mexicans.
No, you don't.
You're not gonna get some.
No, you want to get a shed done? No, hell no.
Roof. What? They're doing in a day.
But the work is going to be shoddy. They're not going to do no quality. They'll throw something up real quick and cheap if you want to get a shed done or a doghouse or whatever. But no real work on your house. No, you ain't going to do that. Boosie just be talking to be talking. And I like Boosie. Shout out to Boosie. Shout out. No. Let me tell you something, man. FBA dudes were the ones really building a lot of these houses. We were building a lot of the plantations. We were not only the builders, but the architects of a lot of that stuff. We had black brothers like Horace King, who built many of the bridges and the state houses around the country, who was an enslaved foundation of Black Americans. So we were building things, man. We've always done stuff like that.
What encouraged you to first create Hidden Colors? I think that's just something that's been really a staple for people who have kind of like awakened to certain things. Like when I talk to people who are really entrenched in the plight of Black people, like they quote that a lot. And it's almost kind of like a very important piece of work, and not only the original, but of course is derivatives in kind of educating people. Why did you do it?
At the time, I was doing relationship books. I had relationship books out, and I was doing very well with that. They were trying to give me several television shows. I'd done a lot of stuff with MTV, VH1, NBC, so I was really on that wave. But I saw that our image in the media just wasn't good at the time. We started doing Hidden Colors around 2010, but around that time, around 2008, 2009, 2010. There were so many movies coming out that were so negative of our image, like The Help.
Oh, let me turn the air. I don't know why it's getting hot up in this.
Go ahead.
It's like, come on, Spotify, work with me. All right, here we go. If you want water or anything, I'll tell them to go grab it. Oh, yeah, but wait, keep going, please.
Yeah, so there were movies like The Blind Side that I didn't really like that narrative. The Help, Precious. These are the kind of movies that were showing us. They were horrible movies, horrible representations. And people kept saying, well, we need to get them to do a movie about our real history. I'm like, well, shit, we might as well do it because Hollywood ain't going to do it. So I got the money together. We did Hidden Colors. First, it was going to be just me talking about history. I said, let me do better than that. Let me get a lot of scholars that I like. So I started calling Dr. Welsing, Shahrazad Ali, Brother Kaba, Phil Valentine. We did the movie. We didn't know how it was going to be received because nobody had ever done a movie like that before, where we're just doing a whole bunch of stuff about Black history that's never talked about. Man, we put the movie out and it became a huge hit, man, internationally, and it just took off from there.
Wow, and you guys have done about
five. We did five Hidden Colors. Then we did a movie about Haiti, 1804, the hidden history of Haiti. That was a huge movie. Then what's my last movie? My last movie was Buck Breaking. And that was a big one, talking about the racism of the white LGBT community and the agenda they have against sexual exploitation of Black people. That was a heavy one.
Wait, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, man. Buck breaking. That's in the Caribbean. Speaking of Jamaica, what they would do out there in Jamaica, they would send slaves to Jamaica to be seasoned. And what they would do, they would sodomize a lot of people, slaves in Jamaica, in order to kind of break their spirit. There's a guy named Thomas Thistlewood, who wrote a diary. He was a Jamaican slave owner. He talked about some of the vile things that they would do as far as sodomizing slaves and defecating in the mouths of slaves. Real vile stuff. That's why in Jamaica they hate homosexuality in Jamaica. That's why. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why, that legacy. But they would break slaves by doing that. So it was called buck breaking. You look at the movie Pulp Fiction. Remember there was a scene where they got Ving Rhames down in the basement and these white men raped him. You know what I'm saying? They had a Confederate flag. So that was kind of
I always thought it was unnecessary.
Yeah, but there was a reason why. That was paying homage to the buck breaking process, getting the biggest blackest, strongest buck and then sexually sodomizing him. That's kind of been a thing in white supremacist culture.
Really?
Yeah, they would do that on plantations. Even with the lynching thing, there was a homoeroticism with that, where they were sitting up there watching the naked black man fighting over who's going to get to castrate him and take his genitals. You know?
What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. So we broke that down, man.
Why is the information? Why is accessing that information about history? I feel like it takes someone like you to really, dig up these just historical artifacts about what we really went through, or what slaves really went through. Why isn't this like publicly, like
because a lot of black folks who are in Hollywood who have access to resources, they usually get their resources from white people in Hollywood, and white people are not going to fund that. We fund these things from the grassroots.
What do you think about like Django?
I actually like Django, just the cinematic version. And it was a fiction movie, but it was kind of cartoonish, and I liked it for the cartoonish ways. And I liked the Samuel Jackson character. I liked the dynamic. I liked it. I actually liked the movie, but it was a fiction movie. I'm doing a movie now about the Black Maroons. They were black people who lived in swamps all around the U.S., and they were fighting the white supremacists and freeing themselves from slavery. That's like the real Django shit. They were really killing white supremacists.
The Black Maroons.
The Maroons, yes. They were called Maroons. There were Maroons in Jamaica too. They got Maroon Town.
Yeah,
Nanny of the Maroons. Yeah.
Nanny and the Maroons.
But the Maroons were all over. There were Maroons in South America, the Caribbean. There were Maroons over here. The most famous Maroons were the Black Seminoles.
And explain this to me, right? So when we learn history in Jamaica in school, it's definitely heavy with, we're going to teach you about all the slave revolts, the people you see on the money. That's what I've always thought about. Like sometimes it's like the mentality as well. Like to this day in the United States, you're seeing the fucking people who pretty much help oppress you on your money.
Right.
While in Jamaica, like through the education, they're kind of teaching you about how how you fought this really horrible thing, which was slavery and oppression. Do you think that, like, the trickle down effect of the mentality from how kids are taught affects them later in how they view not only themselves but just views the dichotomy between black people and white people?
Well, if you look at the Caribbean now,
like, I'm gonna be honest, if I was taught all that and there was white people that went to my school, I would probably really dislike them. If I would be like, so this is teaching me that your ancestor did this to us. But we're majority black there, right?
Right.
But here, still African Americans aren't the majority, and also I feel like there's just constant symbols of oppression, of what was done to you, just
which is good to let us.
Good?
Yeah, it's good so we don't go to sleep. You understand? We need to understand that. We need to understand that there's an oppressive force out there that we need to constantly combat until we eradicate it.
But I think there's also a conservative campaign to say, let's not educate them about, because let's not rile them up.
Right.
Because
that's what that whole critical race theory stuff is about.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about what we did to these people.
Yeah. Or let's not even acknowledge it.
Right. That shows how bad it is if you have to have a law to not talk about what you did. Yeah.
And this touches on very tricky waters, because when it comes to talk about the Jews, the Holocaust, they go hard for that.
Right. Of course.
Not playing around. But they have protected, when it comes to at least the Holocaust, they've pretty much made all the conversation around it really monitored and protected, that their history is never forgotten,
right?
That their people are never not celebrated, and that it would be, I would say, impossible for history to ever even approach the direction that could ever happen.
Right.
Which means if you criticize Jews to pretty much any extent, you could be someone who they say cancel, or they could get rid of you. You know what I mean?
And they look out.
You're anti-Semitic, right?
And they look out for their history, and they
definitely hold each other down.
They hold each other down.
Do you think that's on code for them?
That is 100% on code. They're not depending on somebody else to give them resources to talk about and preserve their history, which is what we should be doing. So we don't have to worry about them talking about critical race theory. That's why we fund our movies independently. So we're not going to wait on the school or or some school board to allocate a budget to us so that we can teach our children who they are and what they need to do to empower themselves. But we do that on our own.
But being on code though, and I think that this is where, like, when it comes to Jews, is like, for example, if you say something that's anti-Semitic, they're gonna be on code all the way to the guy who runs all the movie studios who's Jewish. He's not fucking with you. Right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you could say you be if you're a white person, right, and you say something anti-black, you could get somebody up at the top to be like, no, I know this guy from forever. He's good. He didn't mean it.
Right.
Take Justin Bieber, something like that.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
again, if that was an anti-Semitic, song he was singing, I don't think no one's standing with him.
Yeah, he would have been out of here. Oh yeah.
How do you then get the people up at the top? Like, because we celebrate, there's Diddy who's worth billions, there's Dr. Dre, there's these other people, there's so many people who, Jay-Z who is worth, but then we also see Jay-Z when we're saying that there's a anti-black effort that the NFL is putting forth with certain things, we see Jay-Z then come in and say, yeah, stop all that kneeling, we moving forward.
Right. And we were very critical of Jay-Z doing that too. I was one of the people, and I love Jay-Z.
I think people get split on that. I think people are, well, no, we love Jay-Z though.
Yeah. I like Jay-Z, but they were kind of making him the Negro whisperer to a certain degree. Like, hey, let's get over it. Let's move on. No, we don't want to move on because we need to produce justice. What they did to Colin was real raggedy. And Colin, that's my guy. And they didn't make right on that. They're trying to make right on it now, which is good. But yeah, that was kind of raggedy with what they were doing with Colin and trying to get black people to say, hey, look over here, look over. We're going to do some black stuff, so don't worry about what we're doing to this football player by blacklisting him. No, that's not going to make it right. Jay-Z, that doesn't make that right. Yeah.
The term which I always like laugh at it just because it sounds hilarious. Bedwench.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Explain it.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the great reasons why I think I think you do a really good job at everything you do.
Yeah.
But these are serious topics.
Yeah.
And these are things that have serious ramifications. But when you do deliver it, you deliver it with, I've always said, like, Charlamagne told me one time, he's like, let me tell you this. You have to learn to put the medicine in the candy. Like, nobody wants to hear a fucking speech that's just boring, like you're reading off the paper.
Yeah.
So you almost kind of have to make it entertaining in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
And when I listen to you, you're fucking entertaining.
Yeah,
like, you're definitely entertaining.
Yeah.
And then I leave away from the conversation saying, that's why even with the FBA thing, I'm like, well, maybe he has a point, but I'm like, no, I think he goes a little too far. We should
now, how do you think I go far? Now, and what areas do you think I go far?
No. Only with the FBA thing where I feel like you have just kicked us off the boat. It's like the Titanic rafts is going on, and it's supposed to be the raft that save all black people, and you over here checking birth certificates in 23 and me shit.
Y'all kick yourselves off the boat because the minute y'all do something constructive, y'all ain't black no more. You just make it American. Oh man, look, if y'all do something, man, if y'all win a race or get a PhD, shout out to Jamaica, Jamaican flags all over the place.
So am I wrong for being happy that Shelly and Fraser is dusting Sha'Carri Richardson?
Okay. Keep that same energy when there's a Jamaican crackhead that done stabbed somebody in New York and he ain't one of us. So take him with you. Take him over there with you. That's what it would take. That nigga with you. Take some Bammy bread over there to his ass too.
No, but seriously though, no. Like, I feel like you're kicking us out the movement.
No, I mean no,
because we get affected too. If you get pulled over, I get pulled over. Same thing.
No. But we get treated the same. But we look at white supremacy a little bit different. A lot of y'all come over here and you look at a little white supremacy. They might abuse me, but hell, I'm not back home over there starving. I'm over here, so I'm coming up.
We're more solution based.
Yeah,
we're like, listen, we could sit here and argue and march and protest, or we're gonna say, listen, you're here. Fucking deal with it. Again, we're not saying don't change it.
That's not solution based. That's just going along and saying, okay, hey, you can abuse me and I'm cool with it. I'll play the role and I won't say nothing. Just don't treat me like you treat them niggas over there.
Well, we're not just gonna be in limbo. I feel like sometimes we're, like a lot of people who are. A lot of times I feel like even when for some of the Black Lives Matter stuff, I see some niggas all they do is fucking march and protest, and I'm like, I feel like you're just doing that, signaling to the white people to help you. It's like you don't want to help yourself. So something like think about. So really, if you're hoping that the people oppressing you is about to turn back around and say, "Man, this guy been marching for goddamn 10 years. Let's finally give him his rights." Well, I think there's some people who just come over here and be like, yo, you give us the rules, we'll fucking figure out a way around it.
And there's there's some good out of marching. There's some good. Some of the people, again, sometimes they have controlled opposition out there, but there's some good to marching, because what happens is when people are out there marching, that brings a lot of cameras out there. But when they're marching, a lot of us on the grassroots, we're contacting some of these police chiefs and these prosecutors, letting them know behind the scenes, hey, you better do something about this person, or we're going to make sure your name is attached to this racialized situation.
Okay.
So a lot of us are doing stuff behind closed doors, and they don't want no bad publicity. Let's be very clear. I've gotten a lot of people out of jail because a lot of these police chiefs, they don't want the bad. Yes, a lot of folks. Yes. And the police chiefs, they don't want no bad publicity. They don't want that.
You're a man of action, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, you're a man of action.
Yes.
And I don't think that's everyone. I think there are people who, I think there are divisive people who operate under the veil of, oh, we're here for Black progress, but their business is in dissension to say, hey, as long as this is going on, we're making money, but we're not really. We're saying that we hope for change, but we really like our business is based on if there is no change.
And what's interesting, unfortunately, when we start talking about reparations and stuff like that, they will go find, the white supremacists will go find a non-FBA person to sit down on a reparations task force and talk about what we shouldn't get. When we start talking about reparations, all of a sudden they say, okay, we're going to form a committee. And then the committee has a bunch of Caribbeans and Africans talking about, well, we don't really need reparations. You know, these white folks ain't no bad. They ain't bad. Like, whoa, who are you? So we have people who come in who are not of our lineage who try to undermine us. That's why we're doing the delineating right now.
What's the next step after reparations?
Really building up our economy and really helping a lot of Black people who have been economically deprived. We, especially out here in LA, we got so many homeless Black people out here and all over the country. So reparations, that's going to be a start to repair the damage that has been done. That's going to help a lot. Just us getting the resources we need.
Okay. Still, I think the question is still going to linger. How do you escape the white supremacy? Like, or do you build under it?
Well, we have to replace the system of white supremacy with justice. We got to replace that whole system. All right. That's very important.
How do you replace it?
Well, number one, you start calling it out when you see it, because that's half the battle. Because a lot of times we have white supremacy dominating us and we don't want to acknowledge it. We got this ego thing. Well, I'm not oppressed. I'm not dominated. I can do what I want to do. And then they come and kick the wheels from under you. So we have to acknowledge what the problem is and not just be satisfied with a little oppression. You know what I'm saying?
Well, wouldn't the greatest, or not greatest, but like the better hidden white supremacists or white supremacists, like they would be, you wouldn't be able to identify them.
Right.
Like if I'm a white supremacist, I'm going to support Black Lives Matter as long as I can control it.
Of course.
So how do you uproot them? Because they're and people, and I think you even said about Trump, is like, at least you know what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you uproot a group of people that they might even act like they're in support, but really they're just trying to say, hey, go after them motherfuckers over here. You know, I'm on your team. How do you?
Well, the white supremacists, they're very good at playing both sides of the field. All right, they're very good at playing both sides. For example, you have a lot of white folks who go to these protests and they'll be out there, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. Oh yes, George Floyd, and they'll be the first people on a jury acquitting a cop for killing a Black person.
You think so?
Oh, I know so. They do that all the time.
I know this one white girl. I remember her telling me how she was bawling the day I forgot who got acquitted for killing some Black person. She and the only thing I knew of her is like she does love fucking Black dudes. But I'm like,
did you smash that? Did you smash?
I did.
There you go. Yeah. I know. Come on, brother. Come on, bro. I knew there was a baby coon in there somewhere.
No, no. Hold on.
I knew it was a baby coon.
No.
I won't put the coon.
No. Right. Hold on.
You never know where you're gonna find love.
Wait.
Or it might have been a coon spirit.
Wait, you deal with women, white women at times.
Right.
I've dealt with all races.
There you go.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. I've been one. Yeah. I was an international player. I prefer the sisters, but
Okay, so wait, hold on.
What do you prefer?
What I prefer,
keep it a buck.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'd say the last 4 just by race, right? That I've dated, right? When I just kind of got a little popular back in like 2012, I did for 4 years.
Yeah.
She was half black and half white.
Okay.
Okay. After that, I dated a Hispanic girl for about 3-4 years. And before those 2, I dated just straight. She was a straight black.
Okay.
Right. So black.
Was she from the Caribbean?
No.
Okay,
No.
FBA?
Yeah. She wasn't with none of that Caribbean shit, man. So she was so black, mixed, black mixed, Hispanic, and now mixed again.
Okay, you got a mixed one now.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that cool then? Right?
Yeah, that's cool. My wife is mixed. She's black.
Okay, all right. So wait, you attack what's homie's name? Tommy.
Oh.
You call him cool a lot. Yeah. Why? I think he says one of the things he preaches. I think we all have our ways. Yeah. Where you might disagree. You might see a clip of him like, I don't agree with what the fuck I do right there. Yeah. And probably like vice versa, and also even with Tommy. Tommy does his thing. But I definitely think what he says about preaching about a fatherless America, I think that's important. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Why do you guys get into it?
That's a beef for like a decade ago. That was, and that was more of a comedy type. Well, I kind of pulled up.
Oh yeah, no, you're
I
hilarious.
did pull the 5 on you. Yeah, but I kind of.
Why did you pull out a fucking sock puppet?
Yeah, that's kind of, I like to roast people with puppets because you can't come back from getting roast with a puppet. You can't come back from that because you trying to rebut.
You ambushed him at Vlad, didn't you?
Yeah, I had to pull up. I pulled up.
Why? Why?
Yeah, because he, and then he, was kind of making threats about what he was going to do to me and all that. I'm like, well, you got to come see me if you're going to do all that. And I gave him an opportunity to do it, and he didn't do it, and we kept it pushing.
Have you guys resolved it, or is just
But I don't have a problem. I mean, he is what he's an internet guy. He, says stuff on the internet, and more power to him.
What did you ever think of Kevin Samuels?
I like Kevin Samuels.
Really?
I like Kevin Samuels. Yes, I did.
So you don't believe that he was kind of like down in sisters?
No. I think Kevin was, doing a lot of tough love stuff, and he said some real stuff, and a lot of women respected it because a lot of women would tune in. Yeah, I rock with Kevin. I respected what that brother was doing, and that was a very tragic loss for that brother. Yeah.
What do you think about, say, like T.I.? I think T.I. is kind of dabbled in, I don't want to say T.I. is a woke brother, but I think T.I. cares about the community.
I think he does too. I like T.I., man. I got a lot of love and respect for T.I. He seems like a real genuine dude, real thorough guy. And I think he does have a lot of passion for the community. And he does a lot of things for the community, does a lot of things for Atlanta. So, yeah, he's a thorough FBA brother.
Who, or you don't have to necessarily name a person, but since, we all are in a position of, having a spotlight on us where we have influence, and you talk about remaining on code, what are things that you believe an individual with some notoriety or a platform, whatever, would be doing that you would believe that isn't on code?
Well, doing things that is going to undermine Black society for your own personal gain. That's the main thing that you would do that's not on code. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people in Hollywood who do stuff like that. And I get it to a certain degree because in Hollywood, if they paying you, you got to go along with the program. You got to say whatever they want you to say.
A Black actor wearing a dress. Do you think that's
very much off code? Very much off code because that's a ritualistic thing at this point. It's gotten so bad now. If you have a Black television show, it's required that it's really an LGBT program at this point. They've gone beyond dresses, and it's just a complete LGBT program. All the love and hip hop type of shows, these are LGBT shows.
Yeah, I'm watching. They got like some thing called like Zeus, and I'm watching this thing, and it's like it's just dudes,
LGBT dudes fight.
Do you feel like there's a propaganda? Like
yeah, man. Look, the white numbers are dwindling right now. So what they have to promote to Black people, because they got to keep our numbers down. That's what the abortion clinics were about anyway. They were formed by Margaret Sanger and the Eugenics Society to keep our numbers down.
Kanye said that.
Yeah. It's 100% true. It was designed specifically to keep our numbers down. And non-procreative sex is always promoted to us. You notice that? They're always telling us, why don't you guys be trans? Why don't you guys be lesbian? Why don't you guys be LGBT? Long as you don't procreate, long as you don't create more Black babies. And they promote that heavily to us. They're not doing it because they like us. We need a whole bunch of other stuff. We need money for schools. We need money for housing. We need medical care. They don't give us none of that, but they'll pour millions of dollars into telling us to wear dresses and lay it with other same-sex people.
Do you then fall under the, I would guess, rule that I feel like is now like kind of being put on to everyone, where like, hey, you got to call Caitlyn Jenner, particular pronoun, or D Wade's son. Or I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like I'm so confused.
Yeah, look. Yeah, I really don't try to play the alphabet game with folks. Because I can't walk on eggshells with people and play pretend. If I see a dude, that's a dude. I'm not gonna call a dude looking like Ving Rhames in a wig, ma'am. You know, I got to call it for what it is. And what's interesting, how they're getting on our brother Dave Chappelle about that stuff.
Yeah, what do
And
you think about
shout
that?
out to Dave. Dave is that's on code.
But
Dave
by the
is
way,
on.
so what do you think about corporations? Because I think one of the reasons why, like, everyone's, especially after the Me Too stuff, and also like with people getting canceled for saying certain stuff, it's not like their views are changing much, but they're like,
Right.
you know what, I'm gonna shut the fuck up because I don't want to lose the job. Like, I'm
Right.
gonna lose the bag.
And that's why I like Dave. Dave is independent. Dave can go sell out a venue 2 and 3 nights over.
I was surprised Netflix stood with him a little bit.
Hey, Netflix likes money. You know what I'm saying? All that money, they can't turn all that money down. Dave is big money, and he don't need them. They need Dave more than they need him.
What Candace says, and I wonder if you agree. She said, "Hey, listen, it's because the trans communities is a little bit um separated from the LGBT community, or the LGB community, where they ain't gonna go to war for just the trans issues. So we're realizing there's some small victories in terms of people who might have comments about the trans community, but if it was about lesbian and gays, it's a dub. It's over."
And let me tell you something about that whole trans thing. You keep seeing the word trans being put out there
Yeah.
because they're trying to get into something in the near future called transhumanism. We talked about that in the
What?
bug breaking movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They get the word trans out there and normalize the word transgender, then transracial, transsexual. They just keep saying the word trans. We keep seeing it and hearing it all over the place. A lot of these people, Epstein, a lot of these other billionaires, they were into something called transhumanism, meaning they want to start meshing machines with the human body so that
No way.
machines, yeah. Look this up. This is another extension of the eugenics movement.
I feel like Elon must be on that shit a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he's trying to put some shit in niggas' heads. Like, yo, you got like some shit you want to put in your brain. Like, what's
That's
going on?
transhumanism. That's transhumanism.
Why do you think the billionaires kind of like? I feel like, I always hate when people think there's like secret societies and this and third.
Yeah.
However, like, I do feel like the billionaires. I feel like Elon Musk, he knows how to galvanize people, but he does a great job of acting like he's for a regular person. Like, I'm trying to get y'all rich like me. Come on.
Man, when you get a lot of money, when you get into the billions of dollars, man, it becomes a power play to be able to control the masses. Think about that.
I think
man.
that's why the Twitter move for him would have been interesting.
Yeah. Just think about it, man. You got billions of dollars, man. Why not? I can control a billion people. I can put stuff in people's brains. I can make people take a shot. You understand? I can make people buy my new medicine that I came up with so I can make another $1 trillion. You can just manipulate whole societies and countries sitting at home like some evil doctor type of thing. That's real, man. A lot of folks get a lot of money and power and get very corrupted, and it's an ego thing to control the masses of society simply because they can do it. You understand?
What do you think about, what about like the black people who are becoming billionaires? Because I ain't gonna lie, ever since they started throwing around that word billionaire with like Jay-Z,
Yeah.
Jay-Z been hanging out with Jack Dorsey and them dudes. Like,
Mhm.
it's been a little bit different with his circle.
Yeah. Black billionaires are a little bit different because they keep you on a short leash. You understand? You can't go two out the window with your billions. They keep you real close because they don't want you making no real power moves and powering too many other black people. They can take your money away. Just look at Oprah. Oprah has a so-called $1 billion, but they got Oprah's ass on a leash. Oprah can't go all the way out there like that.
What about Tyler Perry?
And I love that brother, but Tyler, they can.
He has an opportunity with like everything he's doing in Atlanta with film. Like,
Yeah.
shit, he could make he could fragment the industry to some degree.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's really built. Fuck billions, hundreds of billions, if not trillions, and he's working with just a few. But he has an opportunity. How do you think, him being a brother, might, disrupt the sequence of white supremacy. Then,
Well, Tyler has helped out a lot of black folks. I give him that. I know when they were doing the Coming to America movie, he let them shoot it down there, and a lot of big productions. He let them shoot a lot of big black productions down there. So we'll see how Tyler Perry is gonna do with that. I like what he's been doing so far. But again, with Tyler, they don't have a problem with Tyler doing his thing because who's Tyler's lead character? A black man in a dress. You see what I'm saying? So that's non-threatening. You see what I'm saying? It's very non-threatening. So yeah, they'll let him cook for a minute. That's not even to denigrate my brother.
Oh man, but are you cool with Dr. Umar? Like he goes viral all the time.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, we haven't talked, and we still do our little jabs here and there. But I want that brother to do good. I want
he's building a school, right?
Yeah, he has a school out there, and I donated to his school a long time ago. Yeah, I want his school to thrive. He goes, he kind of beefs with people and goes through things, and I had to put a puppet on him and make a.
No way, really?
Yeah, I had a puppet on him too. So.
I'm not gonna lie, you're very like I can see why a motherfucker might start threatening you because I watch one of them. I'm like, this guy is hilarious.
But yeah, I got love for that brother, man. I want to see him thrive, and I want him to be all right.
Have you ever thought about politics?
I have, but if I got into politics, these people would shoot me the day I got elected.
Really?
I'm banned from the UK. I can't even go to the UK.
Why?
They banned me. I did a movie, Hidden Colors 5.
You got felonies though?
No, I don't. No, it's not because of no crime. They just told me that my presence was not conducive to the good of society over there. That's the official answer.
By the way, ain't that a thing where like I think other countries they protect their way of life, like like especially like when you think about even places like North Korea, they'll tell like, hey, all that bullshit y'all got going on, like shit. They told some like app like, hey, if y'all gonna be on that, y'all can't be in our country where our people can see. Fuck that.
Yeah, it ain't just censoring. They're like, you just can't come here because I got a big audience over there in the UK. And when I go over there, I do lectures and it's like packed. They're like, oh no, nigga, no, you over here talking about white supremacy. Just stay your ass over there.
Well, yeah, you probably said something about the Queen.
No, I didn't even talk about the Queen. When I go over there, the media gives me a lot of access over there. The media is pretty liberal, whereas the political structure is pretty conservative. Just like here, we have a somewhat conservative political structure, but the media is somewhat liberal. So when I go over there, they put me on TV and they let me go in. I talk about white supremacy and go all the way in. I'm on the BBC, Russia Today, and all of those media outlets, and they were like, no, nigga.
I've seen you on like like going down some of the rabbit hole of some of the videos you've done that are like pretty legendary. They used to invite you on like CNN and Fox News at times, right?
I still go on there every now and
then. Yeah. How's that? Like how's that reception?
That's funny because when I go in on them too much, they'll just cut me off. They literally cut my mic off.
Really?
If I'm going in on them, I'm talking, and right in the middle of me talking, there's a commercial on. Like, what the fuck is that? So then in my earphone, they're like, okay, Tariq, you have a good day. The door's to the left. Damn. They literally kick me out of there. They do it all the time. That's why I'm like, all right.
Wait, so you're no, but that's censorship in a sense. Like,
yeah, but Fox News, those places, man.
No, but whether you can't go to the UK, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they probably do some weird stuff on YouTube, like, hey, let's kind of limit the reach or whatever. They're gonna play these games.
Yeah.
But even those platforms, why do you think they're that scared of what you're saying? Do they feel like you are an extremist?
Well, when we talk about what's really the problem, which is systematic white supremacy, let me tell you something. They don't ban you for lying, all right? Because a lie, they can disprove a lie easily.
Yeah.
They only ban you or censor you when you're telling the truth. You understand? So when you're telling the truth and it's becoming somewhat detrimental to the evil status quo, they'll shut that down. They got the power to shut it down. So that's why you have to learn how to code your language a little bit.
That's crazy that they just cut your mic. Yeah, I've seen one of them where I think you were like spitting and all of a sudden it was just like Tariq, and then just switched the camera.
Yeah, they do that all the time with me, man. On Fox, they're very good at doing that and literally kick me out. So I'm like, man, I'm cool on this. That's why I like to do my own movies so I can say what I need to say and put it on out there.
Do other black outlets like they invite you though because I could imagine if, for example, like say iHeart or like MS Communication, it's owned by white people.
These white people,
You know what I mean? So
what black outlets are there?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Think about that.
So,
Ain't no
no,
black
no, but
outlets.
what I mean, like, say whether it's like the Breakfast Club or say like Hot Nights and Bush, they might be like, well, if we put them on, we're gonna get in trouble with the bosses.
Well, they've had me on there. I've been on the Breakfast Club a few times, and I'm cool with Ebro. I've been on Hot 97 a few times, so I still do those every now and
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, but there are no really black outlets like BET. That's not a black outlet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, ain't no black outlets. What we're doing, we're the black outlets. Us on the grassroots.
Yeah.
That's the black media right now.
Who other than you, if people like, you know, say and whether it's FBAs or non-FBAs, if they wanted to, you know, kind of hear more of what people like you are kind of saying, like, who else is kind of like preaching the same message, or are you kind of just unique in that type of sense?
You have me. You have other people on YouTube. You got a brother called the Black Authority. He's real thorough. You have a brother called Professor Black Truth, who's very good. There's a sister named Vicky Dillard that's real good. So there's some of us out there on YouTube and in that atmosphere that's really giving a lot of good information like that.
Okay, yeah, I definitely suggest that people check you out. I think you give compelling arguments that even if they don't agree on surface, like it could challenge their thought.
Right,
Like to me, why it's important for me to have you here is that we can have the conversation. And shit, even if someone sits through this whole thing and says, "Man, Ak, you sound like a fucking idiot," at least we've tried to challenge your mind,
right,
and you can walk away from this saying, "I feel a little bit more enlightened." I think that's the point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that's what I try to do with even Candace too. You know, even though I think she's kind of more opposite of what you do.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
And I think the perfect synergies, you got to sit down with people like her. You got to do it because she is a influence. Like, I got a lot of comments of people saying, "Man, this is a real black woman who's really speaking the truth." That's
these are white people.
No, I'm telling you.
Or some non-FBA people.
Tariq, what you got coming up, man? You say you're working another movie, but what should we look out for you? Tell us the platforms that everybody can find you.
Yes.
Again, still important voice that I think people should, you know, cherish and understand even all your messages and be able to think about some of the stuff you're saying, you know?
Yeah, I got a new movie coming out called American Maroon. That's going to be out in a few months. A new documentary series. Also, my book, Foundational Black American Race Baiter, that's available right now on Amazon. Very good book to understand racism. People can follow me on.
I'm gonna read that book.
I should have brought a copy. I don't know why I didn't bring a copy.
Don't. I hope you ain't slamming us Jamaicans too crazy.
No.
I want to read it.
No.
Don't pick on the Jamaicans, man. Pick on like
I got love for man.
Pick on the Bajans or something, man.
No, man. I hang with some gangster Jamaicans. When I go to Jamaica, I got some gangster Jamaicans I hang with. Solid dudes. I got a lot of love for Jamaicans. But follow me on Twitter at Tariq Nasheed. Follow my YouTube channel at Tariq Radio on YouTube and Instagram Tariq Elite. And we also officialfba.com to understand the Foundation of Black American Movement.
Yeah, I definitely suggest you guys tune into, you know, what he's got going on, especially if you are black, whether you are a FBA or a non-FBA.
Yes,
I think it's important to kind of see what you're talking about that's not really represented in just mainstream media.
Right.
These are things that, I mean, you enlighten me. Like, I didn't know some of the stuff you're talking about, the slaves. I had no idea. Yeah. You know, and I think history has been, you know, sanitized in a way to kind of make people compliant. Like, we ain't gonna tell you that much that was going on with you guys because we ain't want you to be that man. And also, shit, you might not think reparations is a thing that's needed until you know the level of, you know, torture, you know, some of the real things that might be still affecting people. So,
yes, indeed.
So
the reparations movement is real, man. And what we need non-FBA people to just co-sign what we're doing. Don't get in the mix and try to undermine it. Just co-sign what we're doing. And hopefully that momentum will help you get your reparations from Spain and Britain and France and the Caribbean, because that's what we want to see too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. People, it's been DJ Akademiks. I'm glad that Tariq pulled up here. I know Tariq couldn't wait after he's like, I know Candace always ain't talking that bullshit.
Oh yeah, Candace threw a shot at me. I said, let me call this brother and let's get this thing going.
Man, thank you guys for watching, man. Go follow my guy, and thank you for coming through, brother.
Man, it's my pleasure, brother.
Appreciate it.
No doubt.